The dinner ended quickly. Sorrel and Lirael were people of the world, indifferent to ordinary delicacies, and Kaelin did not linger once the banquet broke up. Darius and Alara bid their farewells and returned to the villa, the small courtyard where they had once lived. Darius dismissed the servants, leaving the two of them alone. Husband and wife in name only, they had never crossed that line. It had been a long time since they last met. In truth, she had much to say, but now that he stood before her, she did not know how to begin. Darius felt the same. His mind was full of things to share. He was learning alchemy, for instance. Once he reached the 3rd grade and secured the last main ingredient, the blood of the Octavra Aetherwind spirits, he could attempt to refine the Astravi Pilvora. There was far more besides, yet the night was destined to pass with little conversation between them. "Alara, I'm going to the secretum room to prepare for tomorrow's decisive battle," he said softly. She nodded, murmuring agreement. In truth, her feelings had been a tangle these past 9 days. She had both wanted him to return and dreaded it. She had not been sure he would come back at all, and if he did, whether he could resolve any of it. His arrival with 2 elders from the Zareth immortal sect had surprised everyone. "I'll catch up with you after tomorrow," he said with a smile, then turned and left, entering the secret room in the courtyard. The layout was unchanged, but not a speck of dust remained. Darius could tell it had been cleaned regularly. This girl, he smiled bitterly, unable to name the feeling in his chest. It felt good to be remembered. He sat cross-legged and entered the astral chart of Evernight with his divine sense. On the journey here, he had repeatedly compressed and refined his spiritual energy, breaking through his limits to reach the early stage of the 9th level of the Starfall transformation realm. Yet clashing with Tauren during the day had given him a new assessment of his younger brother's strength. The opponent was currently several levels above him, of course, in a real battle. Trump cards decided the outcome. If he combined Shadow Shift with the Raventh Silthor Tarnis, the result was uncertain. But he did not want that. He wanted to win head-on. Inside the astral chart, he consumed a large number of Grade 1 creation pills, his own refinement, which replenished and increased spiritual power. His reserves were already ample. He could break through at any moment if he wished. After an hour of meditation, he stood, right fist clenched, golden light flashing. He roared, and all the golden light gathered in his fist, a terrifying aura rising without end. He unleashed the punch into thin air. Its power distorted even the void within the astral chart. Immediately cold sweat covered his forehead and he panted heavily. This 9th stage of the Starfall transformation realm, with its final trump card, is indeed extraordinary, he murmured, eyes blazing with fighting spirit. Xanthor Fist, the ultimate killing move of the Athoria cultivation technique, Miravel transformations of Starfall transformation. Its destructive power far exceeded Erwin-smashing Lockhaven and Raventh Silthor Tarnis. Although I have never practiced any Athoria martial arts, I feel this Xanthor Fist is not bad at all. His eyes gleamed. Judging from the power of that strike, it was very strong, extremely strong. Darius had once had access to the library's 3rd floor, but had not focused on the Athoria techniques there. His cultivation was only at the Starfall transformation realm. He planned to first master more Ashen-level martial arts. Athoria techniques were not necessarily better in greater numbers. With a solid foundation, learning anything afterward would be easy. He continued consuming pills. He had refined many recently, but had not had time to take them. His spiritual energy recovered in less than half an hour. He resumed practicing Xanthor Fist until he confirmed he had mastered the move to near perfection. Then he moved to the next item, swallowing more pills. He needed to further enhance his strength. Kaelin would have preferred more time to consolidate at the early 9th level of Starfall transformation. But the circumstances demanded advancement. He ceased suppressing his cultivation and let the breakthrough take him. 3 hours later, beneath a hazy sky, his aura surged and compressed in violent cycles until it shattered the ceiling of the mid-stage 9th level. Thunder cracked from the secretum room, minor for a minor realm breakthrough, quiet enough not to wake the household. At the Vela residence, Lirael and Sorrel sat cross-legged in a guest chamber, meditation substituting for sleep. "The boy has broken through again," Lirael said, amused. "Impatience," Sorrel replied, his younger brother. He clicked his tongue. "Tauren is not simple." 16, and already in the Tengara realm, Lirael murmured. "An absolute prodigy. His strength far exceeds ordinary Tengara cultivators. Kaelin is no simple character either. Have you forgotten the commotion when he reached the 9th level? Sorrel's expression shifted, proprietary pride flickering across his face, as if Kaelin were his own disciple. Lirael recognized the look, but let it pass. On the journey here, Kaelin's breakthrough from 8th to 9th had shaken their wooden boat, so violently Lirael had expended considerable effort stabilizing it. Sorrel had mocked him the entire way. Indeed, Lirael conceded. A genius who can awaken the Korith seed is naturally extraordinary. Torin is no fool. He's likely at the 2nd or even 3rd level of Tengara, though his cultivation reads as 1st. Sorrel paused, certainty hardening his voice. If Kaelin were at the same level, he wouldn't last 5 moves. Lirael did not argue. The claim was exaggerated, yet not without truth. Torin could challenge above his level, but Kaelin could challenge further. Sleep abandoned Iron Peak City that night. Servants lingered awake, the Vala household tense with the knowledge that 2 Zarath immortal sect elders had arrived. Even if Kaelin lost tomorrow, the Koriths would not dare move against the Valas, not after the Obsidian Dawn expert's departure had prompted the Valas' quiet withdrawal from the city. But that was not the immediate question. The question was whether Kaelin could win. At the Korith mansion, Torin's face was grim. He wanted his brother before him now, wanted to trample him, humiliate him for the insult of having blocked an attack. The memory enraged him, killing intent coiling through his meridians, yet he did not lower his guard. He retreated to the secretum room to prepare for a battle he now understood could cost him his life. In the master bedroom, Roderick and Seraphine venomously blessed their youngest. "That little beast, Kaelin," Seraphine hissed. "I bore him only to serve Torin's ascent, and this rebellious son. He'll be beaten to death tomorrow," Roderick said flatly. "I thought to beg Torin to spare him, now I see no need." Their world contained only one son. Down the corridor, Eldamir sat motionless in a guest chamber, eyes closed. He had told Torin only that the visitors were Zereth elders, that nothing else mattered but the fight. Eldamir's loyalty was absolute, his power formidable, insufficient to defeat Sorrel or Lirael perhaps, but sufficient that neither could defeat him easily. "These parents," he murmured into the darkness, "truly heartless." Seraphine and Roderick had cursed all night without lowering their voices. At his cultivation, every word reached him clear as daylight. The ruthlessness was absolute. Whether Kaelin or Torin, both were Roderick's biological sons. Torin's attempt to kill his brother was ruthless, yet Eldamir believed it merely reflected the fragility of their bond. Even tigers do not devour their own cubs. Still, he said nothing. Darius stood with Torin, and so he spoke for his disciple. Time slipped by unnoticed. Dawn broke, and though the duel was set for noon, the arena outside the City Lord's mansion was already packed. The atmosphere had shifted. In the past, whether Kaelin faced Thorn or killed Gavric, spectators pressed against the barriers, terrified of missing a single exchange. Today, despite the crowd, people kept their distance from the ring, wary of the fallout. Yesterday's brief clash had left onlookers in awe. "Who do you think will win?" "Torin, obviously. He's already reached the Tengara realm." "I agree, Torin has the better chance. You know, the Koriths produced 2 geniuses, yet one was treated like trash, beaten half to death, and shipped off as a live-in son-in-law." The murmurs rippled outward. This generation should have been brilliant. Torin, a 16-year-old Tengara expert, Kaelin, who had vaulted from the 2nd level of Body Orindal to the 9th of Starfall transformation in 3 months, a prodigy anywhere. Yet the family had come to this. It was heartbreaking, an ache without name. By noon, both households arrived simultaneously, uncoordinated. Every Valar save the servants had come. Branna, Garrick, the clan elders, Elara, Seraphina, the direct descendants, even the female relatives. They came to support Kaelin. Darius had saved them from Baldric, the traitor who had caged Elara and subjected her to humiliation. The elders' opinion had turned after Kaelin secured the Spirit Stone mine. They now claimed him as their own, more fiercely now. Sorrel and Lirael were absent, but a wooden boat materialized in midair. On the other side, the Korith clan arrived in force. Roderick, Seraphine, and her husband. A retinue of direct descendants, even the servants. Eldamir stood beside Torin, expression indifferent. Kaelin looked at his brother, then swept his gaze over the clan members. "Torin, you must win. Beat that beast to death." "That's right. Kill the little beast. Don't hold back." The couple kept issuing commands. Brother Torin, you must win. Brother Torin, kill him. That's right, Brother Torin is the strongest. Kill him. Voices rose. Cousins, male relatives, even women joined in. They all wanted Torin to kill him. Kaelin laughed, the sound bitter and self-deprecating. At his current cultivation, he heard every word from across the distance. These were Torin's cousins and his many familiar faces, childhood playmates cheering for his death. Darius had never gotten along with them. They had always looked down on him, but they were blood. Darius had never verbally claimed the Korith name, yet after growing stronger, he had never acted against the clan. He knew Korith blood flowed in his veins. He asked himself if he had ever wronged them. Yet this was how they treated him? Torin remained indifferent, nodding only to Seraphine and Roderick, ignoring the rest. In his heart, these people were no different from servants. He had never considered them family. Suddenly, Kaelin leaped onto the arena. Darius frowned at his opponent. In the past, no matter the circumstance, this younger brother had always outshone him. Kaelin had always yielded, giving him the best of everything. Even walking side by side, he stayed half a step behind. Not this time. It would not happen again. Torin looked at him coldly, then a sinister smile curled his lips. Darius leaped forward, landing opposite. Let's begin. Kaelin spoke first, his aura flaring, eyes alight with battle intent. Trash, Torin replied, voice calm. 9th level of Starfall transformation or not, you're no match for me. Confidence radiated from him. Darius had reached the Tengara realm at 16, towering over peers who would become outer sect luminaries in the misty immortal palace, inner sect candidates at the next assessment. Powerful figures already courted him. Darius intended to nurture that promise. Kaelin shook his head, a wry smile twisting his mouth. He could not articulate what rose in him before his younger brother, the brother who had sneered good for nothing since childhood, who would kill kin for 1,000 spirit stones. Memory flooded back, the Korith household in Iron Peak City, prestigious if not paramount. As eldest son, Kaelin had once been the center of every gaze, adored, unchallenged. Then Torin was born. Kaelin was 3, old enough to recall the joy of a brother's arrival. 3 more years and cultivation began, but Kaelin was like dead wood. Effort yielded nothing. Peers outpaced him. At 8, he watched 5-year-old Torin display prodigious talent and felt genuine happiness. Then came the comparisons. Useless eldest. Genius younger. No one could say when it started, but whenever Torin called him brother, Trash rode the word like a prefix. The smile that came now was desolate. 2 tears traced his cheeks, falling to the arena floor. The onlookers wore a spectrum of expressions. In the Korith cluster, Seraphine's voice cut cold. Scared now? Too late? Roderick roared for Torin to kill him. Kill this beast? Family voices piled on. The Draconis faction answered in kind, elders joining juniors. Kaelin, kill him, defeat him, you can do it. Elara stood in the crowd, tears silent on her face. Kaelin, she murmured, feeling the weight of him. Seraphine Avela cheered for her brother-in-law. Kill him, kill this bastard. Strange expressions rippled through the spectators, hearts heavy, tongues tied. A careless word could exterminate a clan. Merely watching was peril. This battle would decide whether the Longs or Koriths ruled Iron Peak. City Lord Haldor remained hidden behind the walls, silent as ever. Eldamir glanced at the airborne wooden boat and vanished, reappearing beside it mid-air. Lirael and Sorrel glanced at him, snorted, said nothing. None of us 3 would stoop to meddling in a junior's fight, Eldamir said, amused. Darius never doubted Torin. Tengara and Starfall transformation were different worlds. Torin, a genius who challenged higher realms, would prevail. Kaelin's summoning of 2 Zareth immortal sect elders simultaneously marked him as extraordinary, but not enough. Do I need you, old dog, to remind me? Sorrel laughed, the insult deliberate, surname stripped. Lirael stayed silent, his companion handled provocation well enough. Alchemists excelled at anger. Eldamir snorted and subsided. On the arena battle loomed, useless trash. Prepare to die. Torin wasted no more words. His brother was already dead. The extraordinary opportunity Kaelin had found would merely set the date. Darius charged, a blur of surging aura, brutal and fierce. Gale force wind scoured the arena. Bluestone slabs disintegrated in his wake. Horrifying, terrifying, The arena had never suffered such damage. He reached Kaelin's side. The elder brother moved, eyes flashing with killing intent. "Kill," Kaelin roared, his aura surging until he seemed another person entirely, its weight now matching Torin, who stood at the first level of the Tengara realm. The ground beneath him shattered instantly. Bluestone slabs meters away began to crumble, arena stones far sturdier than any in the Zereth immortal sect. Torin leaped forward, and in a heartbeat the brothers stood face to face. The first exchange erupted at once. Torin was taken aback. He had not expected such strength. Darius, watching from the wooden boat above, cursed under his breath, realizing he had underestimated the youth. The combat power on display far exceeded anything possible at the 9th level of the Starfall transformation realm. Sorrel and Lirael both smiled. Shomir, standing beside them, had gone ashen. Darius could not believe the boy's strength had reached at least the 3rd level of the Tengara realm. "Of course," Sorrel said, glancing at Shomir with flared nostrils, "every disciple of my Zereth immortal sect is a talent." Lirael shook his head with a wry smile, marveling at the alchemist's ability to infuriate people. Shomir had no attention to spare for him. The fight below showed Kaelin in no way inferior to Torin. If this continued, Torin would lose. The older brother was even more shocked, cursing repeatedly. The good-for-nothing he had always dismissed fought with a ferocity and ruthlessness that stunned him. No matter the angle of attack, Kaelin never dodged. He seized every opening to strike, even at the cost of taking a hit himself, and retaliated in kind. In that moment, Torin thought him a madman. Torin sidestepped a fierce punch, a mid-grade ashen-level longsword materializing in his right hand. With a sharp whistle, it slashed downward. Kaelin did not hesitate. He patted his storage bag. The Solari Hastial appeared to block the heavy blow, while a Brindor longsword manifested in his other hand and slashed at Torin. The older brother started and quickly retreated. Both he and Shomir recognized the weapon. The sword in Kaelin's hand bore the mark of the misty immortal palace. Its artifacts were unmistakable at a glance. Torin's expression turned icy, anger flashing in his eyes. Darius did not ask where it came from. Shomir, watching from above, asked nothing either. Everyone knew it had been left by the outer disciple of the misty immortal palace that Kaelin had killed earlier. Sorrel was even more pleased. "What is so good about this broken magic weapon from the misty immortal palace?" "Lirael, you can make one for this kid later. I will provide the materials." Darius patted his chest magnanimously. Lirael pursed his lips and stayed silent. Shomir beside them nearly vomited blood. His outer disciples had been killed and their artifact stolen, shameful enough. Yet Sorrel still called it a piece of trash. Darius almost attacked then and there, wanting to fight the alchemist to the death. Below, Kaelin held spear and sword, expression indifferent. Since returning to the Vela family, he had changed into a clean white robe. Now it was tattered and soaked in his own blood, yet his face showed not a trace of fear. Closer inspection revealed excitement in his eyes. Darius roared for blood and charged. Torin gritted his teeth. Carelessness and underestimation had cost him. He was no match at all. The crowd was dumbfounded. The two moved so fast few could follow. The arena had long since been destroyed beyond recognition. Pebbles everywhere. Not a single intact bluestone slab remaining. Among the Korith clan, Roderick, whose cultivation was highest, could not even track the exchanges. Only in the brief moments the fighters separated could they see that Torin's injuries appeared worse. Roderick cursed, face ashen, and the clansmen beside him wore similar expressions. The Vela family was overjoyed. Kaelin had the upper hand and their excitement was palpable. Onlookers recoiled instinctively, putting significant distance between themselves and the ruined arena. The combat was simply too fast, too fierce to watch. That a 9th-level Starfall transformation cultivator could trade blows with a 1st-level Seraphis expert said everything that needed saying. Kaelin was strong, frighteningly so. They collided again with a roar. Torin, who had sparred with disciples of the misty immortal palace, found himself shaken by the sheer ferocity of Kaelin's fighting spirit. It surpassed anything he had witnessed among those ethereal palace disciples. Darius understood better than most what it meant when a genius could challenge across realms. Raw cultivation speed and high realm were only part of the equation within powerful forces. What mattered more was dominance among peers and the ability to threaten superiors. Torin could challenge opponents 2 levels higher and did not fear 3rd-level Tengara experts. Yet Kaelin, merely at the 9th level of Starfall transformation, was matching him blow for blow, fighting across an entire realm boundary. "You damned piece of trash," Torin snarled, a sword slash opening a bloody gash across his chest and forcing him back, blood spewing from his lips. The strike had damaged his internal organs. "Trash?" Kaelin's sneer was pure mockery. "If I'm trash, what does that make you? Worse than trash?" Torin froze. The logic was inescapable. If he could not defeat the trash he despised, he was something lower still. "Kaelin, I want you dead." Darius roared skyward. His flagging momentum surged anew, injury and exhaustion momentarily forgotten as he mobilized every scrap of spiritual power and charged, blinded by decades of hatred toward the good-for-nothing he had despised for over 10 years. Kaelin exhaled. His injuries were nothing. Darius had survived countless life-or-death battles. After a night of cultivation, he had pushed his cultivation to the peak of mid-stage Starfall transformation. Kill. They engaged again. Torin, driven mad by rage, fought recklessly, an eye for an eye. But Kaelin did not flinch. If Torin wanted to trade wounds, Kaelin would trade. In a few breaths, both men carried dozens of fresh injuries, neither willing to yield. Above the arena, Shomir's face was grim. Torin knew his own limits, and he had never imagined he would be outmatched. If this continued, Torin would lose. Damn it. Shomir muttered a curse, the first in years, perhaps decades. Sorrel and Lirael glanced at him, but neither had the heart to mock. Kaelin's injuries were also severe, yet the difference was fundamental. Even evenly matched, Torin would come up short. Kaelin had been labeled worthless since childhood, but he had survived too many death matches against Thorn and Ashen in the mine competition against Corvin and Darien. He had escaped the pursuit of the Luminar Elders and Patriarch after leaving Iron Peak City. He had fought endlessly within the Zerith Immortal sect. In Ebon City he had faced a profound core expert head-on. That mindset, that awareness, it was not something talent could replicate. Anyone else would have died a dozen times over. Torin's expression twisted toward the feral. His aura weakened, his cultivation destabilizing. Darius had only recently broken into the Tengara realm and had not consolidated before rushing to Iron Peak, yet the good-for-nothing had grown beyond all recognition. Darius cursed. The Solarai Hastael pierced his left chest. Torin coughed blood, teeth gritted against the pain. Darius slashed viciously at Kaelin's head. Kaelin swung the Hastael while his other hand caught the descending blade horizontally, then drove a kick into Torin's chest, separating body from weapon. Blood Galvorn erupted violently. Darius spat a mouthful, his body hurtling backward off the stage with tremendous force, crashing through 3 tall trees before finally stopping 50 feet away. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but no one spoke. Eldamir frowned in midair, descending until Sorrel and Lirael, standing on the wooden boat, cut off his path in a heartbeat. "Get out of the way. Torin has already left the arena. He lost." Eldamir's voice was low, edged with anger. Darius scoffed. "A life-or-death battle? Falling off the stage means defeat?" Before Sorrel could answer, Lirael cut in with a sneer. "Get out of the way." Fury flared. Torin had given everything and still fallen short. If this continued, Kaelin might kill him. The young man's strength shocked the old master, rare, monstrous talent, but Torin was his apprentice. "Old man, have you no shame? You want to cross? No way," Sorrel mocked directly. Eldamir bristled, righteous indignation rising. On the arena floor, Kaelin exhaled, emotions tangled. Had he won? They must have. Darius had defeated his brother, the younger sibling who once treated him like trash. What now? Kill him? Darius hesitated. Countless times, especially yesterday, seeing Alara caged like a dog, he had imagined skinning Torin alive, yet faced with the moment, his blade wavered. His gaze fell silently on the crater where Torin had crashed. Fingers tightened around the hilt. The Korith clan exchanged glances. They hadn't seen the clash clearly. But Kaelin stood alone on the stage. That meant he had lost earlier, and Torin had been the one forced out. Torin will not lose. Roderick and Seraphine stared, incredulous, along with every other Korith family member present. The Vela clan erupted in cheers, clapping, shouting victory for Kaelin, for their family. Alara gazed blankly at the figure on the platform, speechless, heart churning with feelings she couldn't name. Kaelin's thoughts remained a storm, yet in the end his grip on the longsword hardened. Darius took a step. A roar tore from the deep pit. Galvorn red energy exploded upward. I will not lose. How could I lose, especially to trash? Damn you, trash. I'll kill you. Skin you alive, pull your tendons, drink your blood. Tauren rose, wreathed in sanguine chi, eyes bloodshot, mind teetering on madness. Yet his aura surged, depleted spiritual reserves refilling, presence climbing violently, turning savage. Tauren. Good. Tauren is all right. Husband and wife trembled with excitement. Their disciple hadn't fallen, he stood. Long faces darkened instantly. Silence fell over the onlookers. The battle was far more dangerous than imagined. Above all three aerial figures' expressions shifted. Galvorn burning Pilvora. Darius actually took a Galvorn burning Pilvora. Sorrel, an alchemist, recognized the transformation at a glance. The other two needed no explanation. Eldamir paled. How could he swallow that? It will ruin his future. Rage and dread warred in him. Darius knew the pill's cost, overdrawing potential and life essence for a fleeting power spike. Go wrong, and Tauren was finished. Darius wanted to intervene, but it was too late. The pill had already taken hold. Sorrel and Lyrael wore grim looks for Kaelin's sake. They understood the terror of that pill. Tauren already wielded third-level Tengara strength. Under the pill's influence, he would reach at least the fourth Seraphist level, and the drug would drive him near madness. Fighting a strengthened madman was a nightmare. Eldamir inhaled deeply and abandoned his plan to force a rescue. Sorrel and Lyrael froze as well. All three frowned toward the arena. Galvorn burning Pilvora? Kaelin murmured, eyes complicated. Is admitting defeat to me so hard? Tauren's face twisted, body flooding with overwhelming blood chi. His state dwarfed Gavrik's from before. Kaelin remembered that fight vividly. He had dominated until the pill flipped everything, forcing a bitter loss. Now Tauren had taken the same poison. Darius would be even more terrifying. Tauren stepped onto the arena floor without touching the stairs, his ascent effortless. Flight was second nature to a Seraphis realm cultivator. Come on, you piece of trash. Kaelin didn't flinch. As expected, you're not so easily defeated. His voice was steady. If his older brother could fall that easily, he wouldn't be Tauren. Darius knew him better than anyone. Stop talking nonsense and die. Tauren's face twisted, feral, his body wreathed in blood energy as he lunged. Kaelin frowned. The Galvorn burning Pilvora had turned his brother into something terrifying. Darius had already emptied himself against his previous opponent. Now the two clashed again. As the pill's effects deepened, Tauren's attacks grew wilder, more ruthless. The Galvorn burning Pilvora consumed essence and blood to force strength beyond its limit, and Tauren's expression had gone monstrous. Kaelin was driven back step by step, barely holding his ground. Darius knew the tactic for Pilvora users: stall, delay the backlash. But Tauren was nothing like Gavrik. His baseline strength was far greater, and berserk, he became a different order of threat. Go to hell, Tauren roared, face contorted, fists driving for Kaelin's chest. Kaelin caught the blow on his Solari Hastael, sliding back 2 steps to root himself. At the same instant, a sword thrust at his neck. Darius raised his blade to deflect, but his strength fell short. The sword veered only slightly. It opened a half-inch gash across Kaelin's neck, superficial, not piercing, but blood welled hot and fast. Damn it! Darius retreated, heart hammering. He had been inches from death. Go to hell, go to hell. Tauren pursued, the pill already stealing his senses. The ground spiderwebbed beneath his feet, yet he attacked without regard. Gladius light flashed in all directions, spilling past the arena's edge. More than 10 onlookers fell wounded. The crowd wasn't stupid, they fled. Not worth dying for a spectacle. Those with strength and courage withdrew to safer distances. Among the Korath direct line, Roderick and Seraphine were ecstatic. Their Tauren had the upper hand, crushing his opponent. Great! Tauren's going to win! They cheered. That's right, Tauren's going to win! They didn't know the cost of the Galvorn burning Pilvora. They'd never even heard of it. The Valor elders Branna and Garrick recognized it instantly. Eldamir's already formidable opponent had become something worse. Elara gripped her dress hem until her knuckles whitened. The 3 figures suspended in the air, Shomir, Sorrel, and Lyrael, wore matching grimaces. The longer this dragged on, the more severe the backlash. If the fight continued, Tauren's talent and foundation would be ruined. The situation was dire for Kaelin. He could only dodge, no other options. For a moment, none of the 3 knew what to do. On the arena, Kaelin's injuries multiplied, each worse than the last. Every exchange forced him to retreat, leaving a trail of blood. His opponent fought like a madman. Darius couldn't meet him head-on. The gap in strength was too great. Torin's expression stayed feral. With each strike he laughed, shrieking that his brother was trash. Darius's mind had gone blank. Only the drive to kill remained, to kill the man across from him. Even the original plan to force Kaelin to reveal the source of his opportunity had burned away. He simply wanted to kill. Kaelin made no sound, no matter how badly he was wounded. He couldn't afford distraction, lose focus for an instant, and Torin would end him. The fight had dragged on for a quarter of an hour. Kaelin still stood, though barely. Blood slicked his armor and the ring floor beneath him. Torin remained on his feet as well, but his wounds had deepened, his breathing ragged. Suspended above the arena, Eldamir frowned, his voice cut through the humid air, cold and precise. The boy's cultivation sits at the 9th level of Starfall transformation. Torin has been burning spiritual energy for this long. Even with reduced consumption, his reserves cannot be this full. Not with injuries like these. Not with this much blood loss. How is he still moving? He had not noticed at first, distracted by concern for Kaelin. But the longer the exchange continued, the clearer the anomaly became. Sorrel snorted. "You ask me, and I'll answer? Why should I?" Lirael watched them both, saying nothing. In truth, the alchemist was equally baffled. Kaelin's endurance defied every calculation. Eldamir's voice hardened. "What pill did you give him, Sorrel? You're cheating." The accusation was not baseless. Alchemists routinely dosed their disciples before matches. Even Lirael assumed as much. Sorrel glanced at the elder, unimpressed. "Whether I did or not is none of your concern." Eldamir's finger trembled as he pointed, rage choking his throat. By rights, Kaelin should have collapsed long before now. What the spectators could not see was the pharmacy he had swallowed inside the astral chart of Evernight. Before the match began, spiritual energy restoratives, wound-knitting elixirs, doses massive enough to kill a lesser cultivator. Torin had come prepared for his younger brother. He had not prepared for this. And Torin was terrifying now. The Galvorn burning Pilvora coursed through him, a poison that traded life for power, its potency scaled with the essence and blood in the user's body. The Koreth clan watched with rising delight, convinced victory was inevitable. Eldamir's face darkened. If Torin persisted, the pill would burn through his foundation. Essence and blood could be replenished. A shattered foundation could not. Torin was covered in wounds, his reserves draining. Kaelin was worse, not a patch of intact flesh. The Solary Hastael and his longsword webbed with cracks, both artifacts screaming toward failure. "Have the pills worn off?" Kaelin coughed crimson, retreating. The first-grade restoratives he had taken beforehand were never meant to sustain this. His spiritual energy was a dry well. "Useless trash. Stop running. Is flight all you know?" Torin's face had twisted into something demonic. The hatred was old, rooted in childhood. Kaelin's existence was a stain on his brilliance. Every accolade Torin earned came with a whisper, "But his brother is worthless." That shame had driven him to attempt fratricide, then to ship Kaelin off as a live-in son-in-law. Now he would finish what he started. Their clash had already shattered buildings around the city lord's mansion, the aftershocks alone leveling walls. But the Galvorn burning Pilvora was fading. Torin's blood energy ebbed. He drove his longsword into the stone, gasping, sanity returning with the ebb. Damn trash. He glanced at his own ravaged body, fear curling in his gut. If he did not kill Kaelin now, the foundation damage would cripple him for life. Blood energy swirled around his right hand, condensing into a crimson blade. Kaelin exhaled a slow, deliberate breath. His eyes sharpened. Above, Eldamir, Sorrel, and Lirael shifted in unison. Galvorn and Starfall transformation into a blade. Sorrel murmured, grim. Lirael's face mirrored his, both considered descending to halt the match. The technique used one's own essence and blood as catalyst, compressing chi into a blade of concentrated vitality. It could shatter low-grade ashen artifacts. Kaelin's weapons were already broken. Kaelin's frown deepened, the weight of the moment pressing his expression into something near solemn. The Solary Hastael and the longsword in his grip had been failing since the Zareth Immortal sect trials, their edges nicked and cores unstable from clashes with Varric and Isolde now. As Torin's blood coalesced into a blade that hummed with a low, sharp resonance, Kaelin did the unexpected. He hurled both weapons forward like hidden darts, the motion ragged, almost desperate. Torin sidestepped with a ferocious grin. Useless trash, scared, too late, prepare to die. The Galvorn Starfall longsword solidified in his hand, its presence instantly thickening the air. Blood and chi thinned from his body, funneled into the steel, and his right hand began to radiate a terrifying fluctuation, a sound like a knife drawn across bone. Kaelin's eyes went cold. His right hand slipped behind his back, unseen. The 4 observers in the mid-air gallery, Darius, Sorrel, Lirael, and Eldamir, wore matching gravity. Darius had only survived Torin's earlier assaults behind 2 Brindor artifacts. Even those would shatter against the Starfall blade. Kaelin knew it. That was why he had discarded his own broken steel. For as long as the Galvorn burning pilvera coursed through Torin, the sword would not fade. Kaelin had no defense left, only evasion. A single true strike to a vital point would end him. Torin became a streak of light, roaring as he plummeted from the sky, blade aimed for Kaelin's skull. Kaelin stood empty-handed. Even an intact magic weapon would not have stopped that blow. Darius, watching from above, frowned, then launched himself upward to intercept. Torin blinked, stunned by the madness of meeting a Starfall blade with bare hands. The gallery thought the same. Kaelin, don't be impulsive. That longsword is no ordinary weapon. Sorrel flashed forward, power gathering, only for Eldamir to materialize in his path, a giant axe coalescing in his grip. Sorrel, have you forgotten the rules? Get out of my way, Sorrel snarled. Lirael's aura surged in answer, 36 flying swords blooming behind her. The 3 locked gazes, a standoff suspended over the arena below. The combatants closed. Torin's blood-red arc descended, a ferocious smile curling his lips. Go to hell. Trash, 3 inches from cleaving Kaelin's skull. No escape, death certain. Yet Kaelin's gaze did not waver, almost there. His right hand erupted in golden light, blinding, sudden, pulling the attention of every Obsidian Dawn expert above. What martial art is this? Someone breathed. Gold met crimson in the midday sun, intertwining, enchanting, Xanthor fist. Its radiance outshone even the Irwin-smashing Lockhaven or the Ravanth Silthor Tarnis. Eldamir sneered. Powerful or not, the sword reaches him first. Darius saw the punch's extraordinary nature and its fatal timing. Before the fist connected, Torin's blade would have split Kaelin's head. Old dog, move, Sorrel barked. Lirael echoed him, both straining against Eldamir's guard. They knew Kaelin was not reckless, but this was suicide. Torin's face twisted in rage, the Starfall blade already above Kaelin's crown. A sharp whoosh split the air, and Kaelin vanished. The gallery felt only a momentary spatial ripple, a displacement so fast it exceeded profound core speed. Torin's strike sheared empty air. In the next breath, Kaelin stood behind him. Blood sprayed from Kaelin's mouth, the cost of the movement, but his expression was ferocious, terrifying. Xanthor fist. Golden light slammed into Torin's back, a wet crunch. The punch drove straight through, emerging from Torin's chest in a spray of Galvorn. Kaelin's arm protruded from his enemy's torso. Silence fell. No one had expected the end to come so quickly. Damn it. Eldamir's shock was palpable. The sequence had unfolded faster than intervention. Torin's head turned slowly, his face contorting with hatred and resentment. Go to hell, he whispered. The blood-red aura longsword in Torin's hand, already unraveling, whipped horizontally toward Kaelin. In that instant, Torin forgot his own arm remained buried in his brother's chest. Darius no longer cared for anything. He wanted this man dead, a life for a life. Few on the scene could follow the exchange. The Koriths stood frozen, eyes unable to track the speed. Of the Veilers, only Branus saw clearly. Darius gasped, face draining. Haldor, inside the City Lord's mansion, nearly dropped his jaw. The 3 figures suspended in mid-air went rigid. Everyone surged forward, too late to intervene. The blade fell, but Kaelin was hollowed out, every scrap of spiritual energy spent. Condensing the Xanthor fist had drained him, and Shadow Shift had closed the distance at its absolute limit, preserving just enough force to unleash the fist rather than arrive empty. Now he could not resist, could not even twitch a finger. Darius watched the sword descend. Yet the weapon in Torin's grip was also vanishing, dissolving with terrifying speed until only the hilt and a sliver of steel remained. As the Galvorn burning Pilvora's effects faded, his heart and lungs suffered catastrophic failure. The strike had missed his heart by a hair, or he would have died instantly. Even so, the last of his essence and blood was gone. Supporting the Galvorn blade was impossible. The horizontal slash aimed for Kaelin's heart. The younger brother was powerless to stop it. Torin's condition mirrored his own: grievous wounds, depleted vital essence, a crumbling Galvorn starfall longsword. A wet sound. The knife struck Kaelin's arm. The dissipating blade proved unstoppable, severing the limb cleanly. It did not stop there. The remnant edge carved through half his body, shattering the ribs on his left side, bisecting the left lung. Just as the tip neared the heart, the blood light winked into nothing. Torin collapsed, blood spurting from his mouth. Kaelin coughed blood continuously, his right hand still embedded in his brother's chest. The two fell together, dying together. At that moment, the three figures in mid-air, Sorrel, Lirael, and Eldamir, flashed to their sides. Everything had happened too fast to stop. Sorrel and Lirael went straight to Kaelin. Eldamir raced to Torin. They barely landed before catching the falling youths. Without hesitation, Sorrel cradled Kaelin, swiftly assessed his injuries, and began pouring elixirs from his storage bag. Lirael wrenched Kaelin's right arm free from Torin's body. Eldamir clutched Torin, frantically checking his wounds. "Half his heart is shattered," Eldamir said, face ashen. "His foundation is ruined, vital essence exhausted. Darius is a cripple." Kaelin fared little better, left arm severed, left lung bisected, ribs on half his body crushed, but he still breathed. Sorrel pried his mouth open and poured bottle after bottle of pills down his throat. Both hovered on death's door. Eldamir, an outer elder of the misty immortal palace, was no alchemist yet possessed many precious pills. Darius emptied them all into Torin. The onlookers stood frozen. "Torin, Torin," Roderick and Seraphine screamed. Stunned, the battle had ended before they could process it. Was Torin not winning moments ago? How had it reversed in a blink? The couple rushed toward Eldamir. The Koriths followed. The Veilers stood equally shocked. Kaelin maimed, missing an arm. "Kaelin, Kaelin," Ilara roared and charged. Seraphina and Garrick close behind. Eldamir, Sorrel, and Lirael all wore ashen expressions, especially Eldamir. Both youths were barely alive, but Torin had taken the Galvorn burning Pilvora. It consumed not only vital essence, but destroyed one's foundation. Darius swore bitterly. Damn it. Damn it. Eldamir's eyes bloodshot. He whirled and glared at Kaelin in Sorrel's arms. Sorrel and Lirael exchanged a glance, both exhaling shakily. The pills had stabilized Kaelin. His life was saved. He could recover slowly once back at Zareth Immortal Sect. The worst was the lost arm, but Starfall Transformation Realm cultivators could not regenerate limbs. Seraphis Realm could. With his talent, that was nothing. So it was nothing. Lingering fear remained. If Kaelin had died, they would be sinners of the Zareth Immortal Sect. The disciple who possessed the seed of enlightenment dead under their watch. Not to mention the two sect leaders, Caldric and Lorcan. Cedric and Boran would likely hunt them to the death. "You little beast. You ruined my disciple. You deserve to die." Eldamir lowered Torin's body, aura flaring with killing intent. Darius moved to kill Kaelin. Eldamir's voice cracked, like breaking stone. "Eldamir Shomir Yuanthor, what are you doing?" Sorrel sensed the terrifying aura before he saw it move. Pressure rolling off the old man in waves that made the air itself groan. He was on his feet instantly, body intercepting the path to Kaelin. The Veilers had already formed a ring around the youth. Lirael, standing apart, didn't hesitate. 36 flying swords materialized around him in a silent hemisphere of steel, each blade catching the light. Sorrel slapped his storage bag and a massive alchemy furnace manifested overhead, several thousand kilograms of iron hovering like a second moon. Eldamir's giant axe reappeared in his grip, and his aura exploded outward, pressing the nearby Koriths to their knees. "Get out of my way," Eldamir said, eyes bloodshot, "or I'll kill you both today." The prodigy he had chosen, the boy he had raised as a son, Torin, lay broken because of this. Eldamir had no children of his own. He had begged the Zareth Immortal Sect for a special dispensation, a chance for Torin to enter the Marrow-Deep Cleansora poolshade, all of it wasted. If that little beast had obediently relinquished the opportunity, my disciple would not have acted this way. The thought twisted in him, grief curdling into something deranged. Torrin's severe injuries were pushing him toward demonic possession. That old man has gone mad, Sorrel transmitted to Lirael. Lirael's silence confirmed it. Demonic possession was near indistinguishable from madness. Even together, they dared not be careless against a profound core cultivator in that state, especially one at great perfection of the Starfall transformation realm. And their target was Kalen, not these two. Get out of my way. Eldamir took a single step. The ground heaved for dozens of miles. Iron Peak City convulsed. Onlookers screamed and scattered. When a profound core expert raged, the world ended for everyone nearby. One such expert could level a city, and this one stood at the peak of the Starfall transformation. Old dog, if you want war, then let us fight, Sorrel cursed. The furnace roared, flames licking its belly, temperature spiking until the air shimmered. Lirael turned to the Veilers. Take Kalen and leave, now. Branna nodded. His cultivation sat at the Seraphis realm, great perfection of the Starfall transformation. But before a profound core expert, the difference was fundamental. He was useless here. Staying another second was suicide. Roderick hoisted Torrin onto his back and the group fled. Grief and rage warred in Roderic's voice as he glanced back. Senior, you must avenge Torrin. Kill that little beast. He wanted to curse Sorrel and Lirael too, but courage failed him. Eldamir didn't answer. His aura swelled further, a vortex forming around him, expanding into something that made the soul recoil. The crowd vanished. The old man's gaze locked onto Branna, soaring away with Kalen. The giant axe cleaved the air. A flash of light, carrying the weight of a collapsing world, hurtled toward the fleeing man. The void distorted in its wake. Even at Branna's level, the strike would bisect him. He panicked, but the axe light had already locked on. Escape was impossible. Then Sorrel moved. The furnace streaked across the sky like a falling star, intercepting Branna's path in a heartbeat. Axe met iron with a thunderclap that shattered windows for miles. Branna, airborne, felt his blood boil. His aged face flushed crimson. He nearly spat blood. Cold sweat soaked his robes. If that had hit me, I would be dead. He didn't think. He turned and ran. Desperate flight, the only logic left. Simultaneously, Lirael unleashed his swords. 36 high-grade ashen-level blades erupted in dazzling light, encircling Eldamir in a cage of killing intent. Gladius Darnath, Eldamir frowned. His aura surged again. He had noticed. To kill the boy, he would have to break through these two first. The storm expanded, miles wide. Trees snapped. Houses collapsed in swathes. In the city lord's mansion, Haldor tasted bitterness. Protecting Iron Peak was his duty. The result was this. The combatants were all profound core experts. At the Tengara realm, he wouldn't dare approach. After a long hesitation, he fled too. The three had sensed him from the start. But to peak profound core cultivators, there was no meaningful difference between the Seraphis realm and the Starfall transformation realm, just slightly larger ants. Get out of the way, Eldamir said, stepping forward. Or die. Eldamir had lost all reason. 36 flying swords spun around Lirael in a lethal halo, every tip fixed on the old man's center. A single thought would drive them home as one. Eldamir radiated a terrifying aura, eyes bloodshot, oblivious to everything as he swung his giant axe at the void. The blades moved as a single entity, streaking toward him. The axe unleashed a devastating strike, blasting away the 10 swords above his head, and he slipped through the gap to dodge the rest. Even at great perfection of the Starfall transformation realm, taking 36 high-grade profound rank flying swords simultaneously would have left him severely injured. Eldamir did not linger after breaking the formation. He brought the axe down at Lirael, the flashing blade carrying terrifying power. Sorrel snorted coldly. The huge alchemy furnace flew back in a blink, intercepting the axe light. Eldamir hovered, his attack checked, but he did not hesitate. One terrifying strike after another rang out, deafening crashes, shaking the surroundings. Meanwhile, Lirael sent the 36 swords soaring in pursuit. At peak profound core, the old man was incredibly fast, dodging them in a heartbeat. The blades followed relentlessly, locked on as if they had eyes. A ruthless glint flashed in Eldamir's eyes. He seized the air with his right hand, flames bursting forth with terrifying power. Using a moment's distraction, he vanished hundreds of meters away and hurled the blazing fire at Lirael and Sorrel. The two frowned and immediately dodged skyward. A thunderous explosion erupted. The raging flames unleashed terrifying power, instantly destroying the entire arena and half the City Lord's mansion. Sorrel and Lirael floated in the air, impressive for experts of their level, no different from standing on solid ground. Taking advantage, the 36 swords caught up again. A huge axe flash instantly blasted away more than a dozen. The giant axe was a low-grade Ithoria magic weapon. Mad dog, Sorrel cursed under his breath. Eldamir was an alchemist, not particularly skilled in combat. Though his cultivation sat at great perfection of the Starfall transformation realm, his actual combat strength was probably only at the 6th or 7th level at most. Lirael's face was gloomy. He had known the old man was strong, but never this strong. Simultaneously manipulating 36 high-grade Ashen-level flying swords took a huge toll, his face grim. He knew defeating his opponent would be difficult. Eldamir was nearly insane, hair completely white, having long lost his former dignified, otherworldly appearance. "Do you think my misty immortal palace fears your Zareth immortal sect? Today I'll kill you all first, then that little beast, and slaughter everyone in Iron Peak City. Let's see what your Zareth immortal sect can do to me." Galvorn red light emanated from his body as he wielded the axe. It looked similar to the Galvorn burning Pilvora had taken, but he had swallowed no pills. Secretum technique, Lirael cursed. There were many ways to forcibly enhance combat power besides Galvorn burning pills, but most required at least profound core realm. Once an Auramis core formed, its essence underwent tremendous change. Eldamir laughed maniacally. "Go to hell!" he charged again. The giant axe swung continuously, unleashing terrifying beam after beam. The enormous alchemy furnace kept blocking, but was forced back step by step by the shock, several cracks appearing on its body. The 36 swords pursued relentlessly, but each time they closed in, the axe knocked them away. 36 high-grade Ashen-level flying swords were terrifying, yet against absolute power they remained merely a quantitative change, unable to produce a qualitative leap. Centered on the City Lord's mansion, overwhelming light bombarded all of Iron Peak City. The entire population fled desperately. It was like the end of the world. Fortunately, the battle stayed near the mansion, limiting the destruction. If they moved elsewhere, the whole city would likely be destroyed soon. Meanwhile, Branner had already led Kaelin away. When profound core experts clashed, even watching was dangerous. Kaelin kept coughing blood, but after a large amount of pills his injuries stabilized and he regained consciousness. Eldamir had been very weak before this, unable to even speak. Yet he was fortunate. Without Sorrel, he might have truly died. In his previous condition he could not have entered the astral chart of Evernite to take the elixir. Even if he had, his first-grade pills would have struggled to save his life. The battle of 3 Obsidian Dawn experts had turned Iron Peak City into a slaughterhouse. Veldrin lay unconscious, a ruinous hole in his chest, coughing blood as the Valar clan dragged him toward the gates. The city walls offered no shelter now, the only safety lay beyond them. Half an hour Sorrel and Lirael had held Eldamir at bay, a heartbeat for cultivators of their stature, an eternity of burning essence. A dozen miles around the Lord's mansion had become a sea of flame, and above it 3 profound core figures carved the sky. Sorrel, the alchemist, was no warrior. The fight survived on Lirael's shoulders alone. "Let us see how long 2 elders of the misty immortal palace can delay me," Eldamir snarled. The secret technique fueling him showed no sign of fade. At the profound core, essence and blood ran deep. Such expenditure was trivial. Sorrel and Lirael, uninjured in body but hollowed of spirit, panted under the weight. Lirael commanded 36 flying swords in a single breath. Sorrel wielded his furnace as a shield, each block a mountain on his soul. Eldamir's axe battered aside a sword. Darius, the name he wore now, blinked forward, steel meeting bronze. The massive furnace manifested between them, but he did not yield. He brought the axe down with thunder. The furnace shuddered backward, cracks spiderwebbing across its scorched hide. Sorrel's face flushed crimson, a curse dying in his throat. The backlash of a damaged furnace struck through spiritual channels like lightning. A deafening boom. The lid flew open. A wave of heat, terrible and silent, swallowed Eldamir whole. Even he flinched at the temperature. Darius tried to withdraw, but the 36 swords had already closed the ring behind him, severing retreat. A killing blow. Eldamir's eyes went cold. The heat rushed him like mist, formless yet searing. He gritted his teeth and chose neither defense nor evasion. He accelerated, charging straight into the inferno. Sorrel cried out, 1,000 degrees at least. An obsidian dawn body would blacken and blister, yet the old man did not hesitate. In the heartbeat, Sorrel and Lirael froze in disbelief. Eldamir crossed the distance, dozens of meters, nothing at their level. They cursed in unison and scattered. The furnace lumbered after, too slow. The swords streaked behind, too slow. Eldamir, wreathed in burns, swung the axe with a roar. Go to hell. Light cleaved the air. Lirael's left arm shattered, the limb falling away like dead wood. Sorrel fared worse. The axe took his leg at the knee, yet neither slowed. They widened the gap again, swallowing pills from storage bags as they flew. Missing limbs meant little so long as golden cores endured. Flesh could be knit anew. Still, fear lingered cold in their chests. They had never imagined the outer sect elder so monstrous. Their own fault, perhaps. Alchemists were not killers, and even a weapon refiner of Lirael's caliber found no purchase against a name like Eldamir's. Both of you die here, Eldamir said. Darius twisted, the 36 swords singing anew. The heat wave had stripped him, clothes ruined, face and hands raw, bone white on his gaunt cheeks. In a single instant, all three stood ruined. Miles away, Kaelin drifted in and out of consciousness. Branner had already carried him beyond the city walls, the Vela retinue streaming behind. When Kaelin's eyes fluttered open, Elara exhaled, her eyes red as wounds. Seraphina wept silently beside her. The clash of obsidian dawn titans had doomed Iron Peak. And in the void, dozens of miles out, 3 streaks of light tore toward the burning city at impossible speed. The gates of Iron Peak City choked with fleeing residents. City Lord Haldor hurried his guards into some semblance of order. But the disaster had already outstripped his authority. Throughout the city, houses collapsed in clusters, fires swept unchecked, and shockwaves from the profound core realm battle radiated outward, battering civilians caught in the aftermath. 3 streaks of light crossed dozens of miles in a heartbeat, halting in the void beyond the walls. The figures frowned at Kaelin, barely alive in the dirt, their expressions grim. One cursed, then jerked his chin at the others. You two into the city? I'll see to the boy. Darius dropped beside Kaelin in a blink. The other 2 vanished toward the gates, unnoticed by the panicked crowds. The Vela family held a tight circle around Kaelin when a voice spoke from behind them. Let me see his injuries. Everyone turned. No one had sensed an approach. Branner felt it most keenly, no presence at all, yet a danger deeper than Kaldros. The family froze, unwilling to rise. Seraphina stepped forward. Who are you? The old man shook his head, a bitter smile touching his mouth as he studied Kaelin. Kaelin's eyes cracked open, unfocused. Move aside, Darius rasped, voice thin but carrying. This is a senior of the Zereth Immortal sect. Astonishment rippled through the Velas. Another elder? The man before them radiated nothing terrifying, only age and something like sorrow. He smiled, walked the few steps to Kaelin, and the family let him pass. Darius's frown deepened as he took in the damage. A missing arm, half the ribcage shattered, a lung split and rotting with violent blood energy. Little guy, you're barely holding on, you almost died here. He produced 2 jade bottles, poured 2 pills into his palm. The moment they appeared, a rich medicinal fragrance bloomed, cool, sweet, lifting the air itself. Seraphina inhaled, her expression going slack with something like intoxication. The same hunger touched every Vela face. Elara, cradling Kaelin's head in her lap, breathed deep, caught in the same current. But Branner felt it sharpest, richer than the pill Sorrel had given him at the residence, spreading on the wind until even the fleeing crowds at the gates turned their heads, faces bright with sudden delight. Open your mouth, Kaelin obeyed. The pill dissolved on his tongue, a warm current surging through limbs and viscera. The screaming pain of his arm, the knife shards in his chest, the dead weight of his left side all eased. The corruption eating his lung retreated. Color returned to his face, the bleeding slowed, then stopped. Darius rolled his neck, tested his own battered frame and rose with a groan. He bowed low. Thank you, Boran. The old man nodded. Smile, gentle. Good, you're alive. I didn't expect you this broken. Kaelin scratched his head, embarrassed. Boren's smile didn't reach his eyes. He had just given 2 fifth-rank pills, the pinnacle of Marshallon Empyrean Prefecture alchemy, each a fortune in materials and months of labor. But he kept his face calm. The benevolent elder, the recruitment of Kaelin into Dawn Phaelus's lineage depended on it. 2 figures came running from the distance, throwing themselves before Boren. Senior, please, save my son. The couple who had just arrived knelt before Boren, begging for mercy. The elder frowned, uncertain what he was witnessing. They were Roderick and Seraphine, Kaelin's parents, though Kaelin himself stood silent and expressionless, as if the scene did not concern him. Behind him, Elara glanced at the pair. But the Vela family members beside her could no longer hold their tongues. Have you no shame? Why should I save your son? Seraphina spat. It was your son who nearly killed my brother-in-law. That's right. Get lost. You Koriths are shameless. The Vela clan's curses erupted, fueled by decades of hatred. Their ancestor had been injured. Their direct descendants and female relatives caged like dogs and hung outside the city lord's mansion, a bloody disgrace they had never forgotten. Boren's brow furrowed. Darius had sensed Taurin's presence outside Iron Peak City, felt the severity of the boy's injuries, worse even than Kaelin's. He had already guessed the couple's identity. Kaelin had returned because of a threat from his younger brother, and the misty immortal palace had intervened. The pieces fit. You Velas don't push your luck, Roderick snapped, glaring at the surrounding cultivators. Seraphine was even less willing to back down. She shot a vicious look at Kaelin, then turned back to Boren, wailing, Sir, you saved this little beast. Why won't you save my son? Please, save him. The Velas fell stunned. In front of a Zerith immortal sect elder, she had just called Kaelin a little beast. Kaelin's face turned cold, though he did not speak. Boren's expression darkened further. Get out! Why should I save him? A wave of force erupted from his sleeve, flinging Seraphine several meters back. Darius had not harmed her. She was still Kaelin's birth mother, and family matters were not his to settle. Seraphine stared, dazed. Roderick paled, a terrible realization dawning. Boren said nothing, but his grim silence spoke volumes. The Velas held their breath. They could feel his anger. Only Seraphina pressed forward, sneering at Seraphine. You old monster. What right do you have to call my brother-in-law a little beast? This senior is an elder of the Zerith immortal sect. Darius came for my brother-in-law. What claim does your son have? Zerith immortal sect. Seraphine nearly fainted. Roderick's face went ashen, exactly as he had feared. They had rushed over the moment they saw an old man appear and feed Kaelin something that got him standing. They had not known who he was. Now they did. Seraphine and Roderick looked up at the elder. His face was indifferent. He did not spare them a glance, but his eyes flicked to Seraphina with a hint of admiration. She had handled the situation neatly. Even if he wanted to, saving Taurin was impossible. The boy's injuries were too severe. He might not have half a life left. Suddenly Seraphine's gaze locked onto Kaelin. Without rising, she crawled across the ground and seized his leg. Everyone froze, even Kaelin. Darius tried to step back, but his injuries allowed only 2 staggering steps before her grip tightened. Tears streamed down her face. Kaelin, please. Beg your sect elder to save your brother. Taurin is your own brother. Kaelin stood frozen. The Vela clansmen around him mirrored his stunned silence. No one had anticipated Seraphine dropping to her knees before him, let alone what followed. Boren stood apart, his face grim. Darius had heard the rumors of Kaelin's past and understood why he had been sent back. And now, Kaelin, Taurin is your own brother. Are you truly so heartless as to watch him die? When Kaelin did not react, Seraphine's voice sharpened to a shrill edge. She wanted to say worse but feared provoking him. His expression darkened, unreadable. Roderick hurried over, anxiety etched across his face, tears welling. Kaelin, he's your own brother. How can you be so heartless as to watch him die like this? The Vela clansmen looked grim. None had expected the Koriths to be so shameless. They had beaten Kaelin half to death, shipped him off as a son-in-law to secure resources, committed every vicious act imaginable, and now they begged him to save the younger brother? Kaelin, you little beast, you grew up eating Korith food and now you just watch. How can you be so heartless? Darius is your own brother. The name hung wrong in the air, but Seraphine was past noticing. Her screams grew frantic. Kneeling before her own son, she clutched and shook his legs like a madwoman. Roderick stared coldly, his thoughts mirroring hers. Both regarded Kaelin as an ingrate, calling him ungrateful, utterly forgetting how they had treated him. Seraphina Vela stepped forward, fury rising. Then the silent young man spoke. "My younger brother?" A bitter smile curled his lips, cold, yet everyone nearby felt the sadness beneath it. "I was born and raised in the Korith family. How have you treated me?" His gaze settled on Roderick and Seraphine. His tone was calm, but his eyes held a fury as fierce as a volcanic eruption. "Has Torin ever considered me his brother? But he is, after all, your own brother," Seraphine retorted, unwilling to accept it. Kaelin ignored her. "Torin called me a piece of trash since childhood. Has he ever treated me as a brother? Have you ever treated me as your son?" His voice hardened. "Torin was valued by the misty immortal palace. What did you do then? To ensure he wouldn't lack resources or fall behind, you wanted to send me as a son-in-law in exchange for them. I refused. What did you do then?" His voice roared, unleashing years of pent-up emotion. "Torin beat me half to death, and you, as my parents, not only didn't send me for treatment, but worried I'd die, so you shipped me to the Vela family overnight to exchange for resources. Did you ever think of me as your son at that moment?" His eyes were red, tears sliding down his cheeks. He had never told anyone these things, not even Ilara. He had kept it all inside, wanting countless times to ask them face to face. They were both sons. So why treat him that way just because he was less talented? Seraphine and Roderick were stunned. For a moment, neither could refute him. The Vela clansmen fell silent, even Seraphina. Boren watched, then sighed softly. Previously they had only valued his talent, although they knew of his tragic past who had truly experienced it. No one could imagine what this 19-year-old boy had endured. "Torin, I don't care about his bullying and humiliation, even if he beat me half to death for a mere 1,000 spirit stones. I don't care about any of that." His tone softened, but his voice remained icy. "But then he had someone try to kill me, interrogating me about that so-called opportunity, and now he's come here in person to finish the job. What did he do to the Vela family while I was gone? Torin suppressed the Vala clan patriarch, imprisoned the direct descendants in dog cages, and even locked my wife in one. If he's delayed by a single day, he'll kill one person from the Draconis mansion. If delayed by 3 days, he'll strip my wife naked and parade her through the streets. When he says such things, does he ever think I'm his elder brother?" In the end, he seemed to collapse completely, face flushed, expression ferocious. Kaelin coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Brother-in-law, Kaelin." Silence fell. Everyone was stunned, even Seraphine and Roderick, but the couple didn't react. Boren instantly rushed over and helped him up, hurriedly checking his condition. Darius breathed a sigh of relief, took a jade bottle from his storage bag, poured out a pill, and gave it to the young man. Boren said, "Darius is fine, just overwhelmed by anger and temporarily unconscious." The Velas exhaled in collective relief. Seraphine and Roderick looked grim. With Kaelin already fainted, they had no hope left. They turned to Boren, ready to plead again, but he cut them off coldly. "Get lost. I won't help your son." Their expressions darkened. Seraphine refused to yield and opened her mouth, but Boren's voice turned glacial. "If you don't disappear from my sight within 3 breaths, you die." A chilling aura erupted from him, dropping the temperature instantly. Everyone felt plunged into an ice cellar. Seraphine and Roderick stared blankly, undisguised fear on their faces, pupils contracting, cold sweat beading on their foreheads. Footsteps echoed. Roderick immediately took 3 steps back and bolted. Seraphine, enveloped by murderous intent, collapsed heavily. After a moment she scrambled up and fled as well. Those around them exchanged glances, none understanding what the two had just experienced. Aside from Branner, their reactions had been the most obvious. Boren's killing intent had been directed squarely at them. Locked in the gaze of such a powerful figure, it was no wonder they'd broken. Ilara approached Kaelin, carefully taking him from Boren's arms, her expression worried. Boren glanced at her and guessed her thoughts. Darius smiled. "Don't worry, he'll be fine after some rest. In fact, this is a good thing for him." Ilara bowed. "Senior, what do you mean?" Boren's amiable demeanor returned. What Kaelin just said must have been weighing on him for a long time, a knot in his heart he never shared. Now that it's untied, it will greatly benefit his future. Elara nodded slightly, vaguely understanding. The Veilers also fell into deep thought. Boran's words were too profound. A tremendous boom rang out continuously from within Iron Peak City. Boran said no more, turning his gaze toward the city. His figure flashed and vanished in a streak of light. Above the Iron Peak City Lord's mansion, Eldamir, Lyriel, and Sorrel faced off. Both sides were in a sorry state. Eldamir, wielding a giant axe, looked like an ancient monster, his face contorted in a terrifying grimace. Lyriel and Sorrel had very little spiritual energy left. Sorrel swallowed a pill and tossed another bottle to Lyriel, the second time they'd used elixirs to restore their power. The advantages of being an alchemist were apparent. They simply had more medicine. No matter how much you take, it's useless. You're all going to die here today. Eldamir snarled, murderous intent radiating from him. Galvorn red light flashed along his giant axe, manifesting a phantom dozens of feet long. Lyriel and Sorrel frowned, not daring the slightest carelessness. At that moment, two streaks of light shot in from the west. All three looked simultaneously. The newcomers arrived near the arena in the blink of an eye. Upon seeing them, Lyriel and Sorrel immediately showed joy. Eldamir's face darkened. The visitors were Aldrich and Darius. The two surveyed Lyriel and Sorrel, panting heavily from exhaustion. Aldrich clicked his tongue. "I say, you can't be this tired from fighting 2 against 1, can you?" Sorrel snorted coldly and said nothing. Lyriel remained silent as well, but both breathed sighs of relief. Aldrich and Darius's gazes settled on Eldamir. After a long moment, Aldrich spoke. "So it's you, old man. Didn't expect you to still be alive. No wonder the two of them were so worn out fighting 1. Eldamir, wreathed in blood energy with a ferocious expression, had been full of murderous intent, but his aura weakened the instant he saw them. Aldrich? Darius? His face grim, he took a deep breath and turned to run. What was the point of fighting? That was just asking for death. Aldrich smiled faintly and slapped the air with his right hand. The motion seemed ordinary, but a terrifying palm print condensed in mid-air, 100 feet in size, covering the area above the city lord's mansion. Eldamir cursed. He realized there was no escape. No matter where he ran, the palm print followed, always hovering above his head, relentlessly pursuing, slowly descending. Aldrich's voice carried a faint smile. "Don't try to run. You can't escape." Eldamir's face turned ashen. Just as the man had said, there was no escape. Wherever he went, the palm print would surely hit him. Darius roared, blood energy surging brighter, the giant axe blazing with blood-red light. He charged head-on into the enormous palm print in the void. Defeating it was the only way to break the technique. But the blood-red axe mark, tens of meters long, struck the empty hand and left only a crack. The giant palm erased the axe mark and continued falling. Galvorn sprayed from Eldamir's mouth as the enormous palm struck him, powerless to resist. It slammed into the ground with tremendous force. A thunderous crash rang out. A terrifying roar echoed. The earth cracked open and a huge sinkhole appeared, shaped like a palm. Eldamir lay covered in blood, unable to move. Darius stared at Aldrich in mid-air with a look of despair, muttering to himself. Yuan Hulis' realm. Aldrich stood ahead above the rest, not merely in stature but in the quiet certainty of a Yuan Hulis realm expert. His position as head of the martial arts Jorvin within the Zereth Immortal sect was no honorary title. The gulf between him and Shomir, great perfection of the Starfall transformation, a half-step from Yuan Soulforge, was the difference between a mountain and the mist that clung to its slopes. Darius, for all his skill, would not have survived a single exchange, yet Aldrich's arms remained crossed, his face impassive, while inside he savored the rare chance to demonstrate dominance before the alchemy and weapon-forging schools. Darius glanced down at Shomir's crumpled form, his expression unruffled. The Obsidian Dawn realm was formidable, but the chasm separating it from Yuan Hulis was fundamental, not incremental. Lyriel and Sorrel exchanged a look of bitter amusement. They had fought Shomir to the edge of death, only to watch Aldrich end him in a heartbeat. The relief was palpable. Their strength lay in technique and craft, not brute force. "Are you all right?" Darius asked, directing the question to both. "It's nothing fatal." Sorrel swallowed a pill from a vial at his belt, color flooding back into his cheeks. He glanced between Darius and Aldrich, the easy arrogance of an alchemist returning. Lyriel watched the vial with naked longing, silent until he could not contain himself. "Give me one." Sorrel sneered. We're not fighting anymore. Why should I waste pills on you? Meditate and recover on your own. Lirael seethed inwardly. Moments ago they had been allies, now Sorrel turned on him over a single pill, as if Aldrich's display was somehow Lirael's fault. Beside him Darius cursed Aldrich with equal venom. Let's see what the old man looks like now, Aldrich said, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. The others nodded, and 4 figures descended into the pit.
Still breathing, you're lucky, Darius, Aldrich remarked, feigning surprise. The others studied Shomir with the clinical detachment of butchers.
An obsidian dawn cultivator did not die easily, not while the Oramis core remained intact, but with 3 profound core experts and a Yuan Hulis master present. Even a fleeing golden elixir would find no escape. Shomir's face was grey, his eyes burning with a desperate calculation. I am an elder of the misty immortal palace. Kill me and you invite war between our sects. His voice carried authority, yet a tremor betrayed the fear beneath. It was the only leverage he possessed. Threats of force were meaningless against this assembly. Lirael, Sorrel, and Darius frowned but held their tongues. Aldrich spat. Old man, you think the Zerith immortal sect fears your palace? You earned this death yourself? The misty immortal palace may be strong, Aldrich continued, his tone hardening, but that does not mean we will cower. A new streak of light tore across the sky, resolving into a figure who landed lightly beside Aldrich. The Zareth quartet did not so much as flinch, but Shomir's face twisted anew in the pit. Damn it, you two? Boren's smile was faint, unbothered. Shomir's mind raced. He had wondered why both Lirael and Sorrel had accompanied the boy. Kalen must hold extraordinary standing, but he had never imagined 3 more would arrive, 2 of them Yuan Hulis. Boren Caldwell, the 5th-grade alchemist, was one of them. Aldrich and Darius stood shoulder to shoulder. Arrogance mirrored. Lirael's face was a mask. Sorrel glanced at Boren, unimpressed. You needn't concern yourself with the boy, Boren said softly. Simply set off on your journey in peace. I am an elder of the misty immortal palace, Shomir roared, fury cracking his composure. How dare you kill me? Boren shook his head, a bitter curve to his lips. What wouldn't a 5th-grade alchemist dare? Even if I kill you, what can your palace do to me? He raised his right hand. The pressure of the Yuan Huli's realm rolled outward, heavy and absolute. Above them, a phantom pill furnace coalesced, vast, intricate, dwarfing the one Sorrel had summoned. It inhaled, and Shomir's body was drawn upward, swallowed by the construct. A scream tore from his throat. You will all die horribly. The curses faded, muffled by the furnace's walls, until silence settled. Even an obsidian dawn master was reduced to ash. Countless miles away in the Eldamir hall of the misty immortal palace, a natal soul lamp shattered. The disciple guarding the soulforged lamp screamed a telepathic alarm that rippled through the sect. An elder had fallen. Veira, elder of the misty immortal palace, was dead. The matter was of utmost importance. Alchemists commanded noble status, and a 5th-grade practitioner like Boren stood among the most formidable in the Marshalon Empyrean state. Even the misty immortal palace would not cross him lightly. He held positions as an inner sect elder of the Zareth immortal sect, head of Dawn Phalis Jorvin and honorary Eldamir of Luminara Sanctum. The alchemists of Dragonspire Prefecture were exceptionally united. Had Boren killed Eldamir Shomir, he would have faced no consequences. Had Aldrich been the one to strike, a storm would have followed. Why are all 3 of you here? Sorrel asked, irritation and embarrassment threading his voice. Boren shook his head with a wry smile. The sect worried the 2 of you aren't suited for combat and might suffer losses, so we returned together. Sorrel snorted and fell silent. They had suffered a crushing defeat this time, nearly losing their lives. Let's go then. Let's see what's happening outside the city. Boren ignored the remark, glanced at the others, and with no objections, the group transformed into streaks of light and flew toward Iron Peak's outskirts. Outside the gates, a sea of people stretched into the distance, residents streaming out in a mass exodus, the first such blow in the city's history. City Lord Haldor's face was ashen as he directed the evacuation. The Korith family clustered around the still unconscious Taurin, their expressions grim. Roderick and Seraphine had returned to their son's side. Taurin, everything will be all right, Seraphine said fiercely. Eldamir Shomir will kill all those people, then slaughter that little beast, and bring you back to the misty immortal palace. You'll be fine. Roderick remained silent. Kalen had woken recently. Darius felt strangely relaxed after waking, though he couldn't say why. Elara had stayed by his side the entire time, as had the rest of the Vela family. Kaelin looked around and asked, "Where is Eldamir Boren?" "Darius just went into the city," Garrick replied, his expression equally complicated. So much had happened today that even he, the family head, found it hard to process. The battle between Obsidian Dawn realm experts had been too shocking. People like them were as powerless as ordinary mortals before such might. Even more surprising was that the Zereth Immortal sect had sent another elder to help. Just what was Kaelin's status in the sect? Not only Garrick, but every Vela member wondered the same. With their cultivation, they hadn't sensed the others at all. In truth, besides Boren, Aldrich and Darius had also been present. Otherwise, their shock would have been even greater. Just then, 5 streaks of light shot from Iron Peak City and landed near the Vela family in the blink of an eye. The Velas stared in astonishment, then hurriedly clasped their hands in salute. In their haste, they forgot to present a gift to Boren. They recognized Sorrel and Lirael among the newcomers. The other two were unfamiliar, but their ability to fly alongside the elders marked them as anything but ordinary. Seeing them arrive, Kaelin struggled to his feet and bowed deeply. "Greetings, elders." Even if he'd wanted to address each by name, the list would have been long, so he greeted them as a group. Sorrel and Lirael showed surprise that Kaelin could stand at all. Their recovery ability was truly remarkable. When the two glanced at Boren beside them, both visibly relaxed. Aldrich and Darius, however, looked grim. Kaelin was seriously injured. One arm was broken, a terrible sight. Boren chuckled.
"Good that you're all right."
Aldrich's voice was flat. "Boy, you're seriously injured." Kaelin shook his head with a bitter smile, unsure how to respond. A heavy silence settled over the group. The surrounding Vela family members were stunned. Though they'd guessed earlier, hearing Kaelin confirm it themselves brought a different weight. The 5 opposite were all elders of the Zereth Immortal sect cultivation, at least at the profound core realm. For a moment, pride flickered through the Vela family. And the great battle inside Iron Peak City, was it over? Mixed emotions churned in everyone's chest. Curiosity burned, but no one dared speak. Branor stepped forward, cupping his fists in a deep bow to Boren and the other 4. "Elders, you've come from afar for the sake of my Vela family and my son-in-law. I thank you for your help." The rest of the Vela family naturally followed suit. Bowing in unison, Boren laughed. "It's nothing, really." The others smiled and nodded, exchanging pleasantries, all of it because of Kaelin. Otherwise they likely wouldn't have given a mere Tengara realm cultivator like Branor the time of day. "Gentlemen, please come to my Vela family residence for a chat," Branor said, beaming, heart-pounding with excitement. "Althoria elders of the Zereth Immortal sect." As for the matter within Iron Peak City, it was safe to assume it had been resolved. 5 elders had arrived. How could they possibly fail? The process and result weren't his to ask. "Let the Vela family extend our hospitality and entertain you all." Branor fell silent, and the Vela family behind him stood equally stunned. Kaelin managed only a wry smile. Every gaze turned toward Iron Peak City, which from this distance resembled a sea of fire. No one knew whether the Draconis mansion had survived.
"It is nothing," Sorrel said. "We never drew close to the Draconis palace during our battle. As a participant, he knew exactly where the clash had occurred."
The patriarch exhaled, and the tension behind him eased. The mansion's destruction was a minor concern. The real problem was how to entertain the 5 figures standing before him. If word spread that he had hosted 5 elders of the Zereth Immortal sect simultaneously, the Vela family would profit enormously. Even powerful neighbors like the Murongis would never dare offend them again. At that moment, another figure hurried forward. He clasped his hands and bowed. "Lord of Iron Peak City, Haldor greets all the seniors." Haldor froze. Darius had once paid respects to Torin and Eldamir, but they had ignored him entirely. Later, when Lirael and Sorrel arrived, he had not had the chance to show his face, and they had not dared to show theirs. Though he governed Iron Peak City under the Marshallon Empyrean dynastra, the benefits of befriending an Obsidian Dawn realm expert were immeasurable, especially when the opposing side consisted of 5 Zereth elders. As City Lord, he knew the sect's power well. 2 of them radiated terrifying auras. The others' cultivation levels he could not sense, but he estimated they had surpassed the profound core realm, meaning Yuanhulis realm experts. Boren nodded with a smile but said nothing. Sorrel ignored him completely, not even turning his head. Lirael glanced at him with no interest in acknowledging a city lord at the Tengara realm. Darius remained expressionless, his face cold as ice. Aldrich merely nodded, with no intention of paying attention. Holdor's face darkened, but he dared not show anger. He could only stand there, humiliated before the crowd of residents who had fled the city and now witnessed his snub. Branner felt a pang of embarrassment for him, but he could not intervene. He was unfamiliar with the 5 elders. Then Kalen stepped forward and bowed with clasped hands. "Lord Haldor, it has been a long time." The city lord knew better than anyone that Kalen had returned. "Young friend Kalen, it has been a long time," he replied, his smile broad with relief. At least someone was speaking to him. Kalen smiled. "When people from the misty immortal palace came to cause trouble, I never had the chance to thank you in person. Today, several of my sect elders are here, so we will return to the Draconis mansion first. When I have time, I will personally visit the City Lord's mansion to pay my respects." Very good, Haldor said, nodding. Aldrich, Darius, and the others glanced sideways at the City Lord. They had figured something out. "You are not bad," Aldrich said, laughing as he clapped Haldor on the shoulder. "You helped my disciples from the Zareth immortal sect?" Darius nodded, studying him a few more times. Lirael nodded as well, his expression less cold than before. Even Sorrel hummed in agreement. Boren smiled. "You are welcome to visit the Zareth immortal sect when you have time." Seeing the shift in attitude, hearing Boren's invitation, Haldor quickly bowed. "Thank you, seniors." He glanced at Kalen with gratitude. The elder's change of heart was undoubtedly thanks to the young man. A single sentence had made 5 elders remember him. Otherwise they would never have bothered with a city lord at the Seraphis realm. Kalen's words had not only saved him from embarrassment, but earned him the appreciation of 5 powerful figures. "Seniors, this way please," Branner said, stepping forward with a smile. Boren, Aldrich and the others nodded and followed the patriarch into Iron Peak City. The damage was not severe. The main battlefield had been near the City Lord's mansion, other areas touched only by the aftermath. The group entered the city. Kalen, with only one arm remaining, walked at the very back, Ilara supporting his other side. At the gates he turned silently. His gaze swept over the Koreth family members. Ilara stood quietly beside him. His face was pale as paper, his eyes heavy with complex emotion. After a long moment he spoke to himself, or perhaps to someone else. "Whether you survive or not, from this day forward, we brothers will no longer be brothers. All past grudges will vanish like smoke. We will be like strangers." He turned and left with Ilara, 2 brothers, from now on strangers to each other. In his heart, his younger brother had always been an inner demon, especially after he was beaten half to death and sent to the Vela family. Now that the grudges were settled, the demon had vanished. His mind became clear and pure. Haldor saw them off with a broad smile. Darius meanwhile felt a chill. The presence of these individuals implied that Eldamir had been defeated, or had perished. The thought sent a tremor through him. He took a deep breath and decided to report the matter immediately, leaving the rest to the important figures of the Thelia Dynastra. He began dispersing the city's residents and led people back into Iron Peak to inspect the damage and handle resettlement. The Koreth family members all looked grim. The Vela family had already entered the city. All the elders had appeared. But Eldamir was nowhere to be seen. A bad feeling spread through the hearts of everyone in the Koreth family. The news settled over Iron Peak like dust after a collapse. Shomir Roderick Kalem was dead. No one believed it at first. An expert of the Obsidian Dawn realm did not simply perish, not so easily, not without a body to show for it. The Vela household had returned to their residence in silence. Kalen had changed into fresh robes, the left sleeve hanging empty where his arm had been. The bleeding had stopped, but the absence was a weight he had not yet learned to carry. In the main hall, Branor was entertaining Boren, Aldrich, and the other elders. Conversation stilled when Kalen entered. Apart from Sorrel and Lirael, none had witnessed the fight. That he could be injured at all seemed impossible, especially to Aldrich and Boren, who had heard he could challenge cultivators above his realm. Neither Sorrel nor Lirael offered an explanation. "How do you feel?" Boren asked, smiling. Kalen managed a wry smile. "A little hard to get used to." The others laughed, the tension breaking. "Your cultivation has already reached the mid-stage of the 9th level of Starfall transformation," Aldrich said. Once you break through to the Seraphis realm, your arm will grow back with little effort. Losing limbs is normal for cultivators. At the Tengara realm, severed limbs regenerate naturally. The higher the cultivation, the faster the recovery. Look at Liriel and Sorrel. One lost an arm, the other a leg. Both are fine now, though recovery consumes considerable spiritual energy. Kalen nodded. He knew this. Thank you for your concern, elders. Darius clasped his hands in a respectful bow. For his sake, the Zareth Immortal sect had sent 3 additional elders, a gesture that moved him deeply. The group smiled in return. By the way, Boren said, there are only 3 days left until the inner disciple selection. How are you doing? The mood shifted. Branner, standing to the side, did not know the full story, but the mention of the selection told him enough. They looked at Kalen with surprise. He would participate so soon, and in this condition? The gap between outer and inner disciples was vast. Even with piles of pills, he could not fully recover in 3 days. The selection would include not only his generation, but outer disciples from previous years, many of them past geniuses. I will participate, Kalen said seriously. This injury is nothing. Only by joining the inner sect could one be considered a true disciple. Lorcan had told him the Zareth Immortal sect's true strength lay within. Missing this chance meant waiting at least another year, and he would not wait. Moreover, he possessed the seed of enlightenment. If that got out, he would be in danger. He needed to become stronger, as quickly as possible. Outside, Iron Peak was in chaos. City guards swarmed the streets, cleaning up the battle's aftermath. When the crowd reached the center of the city lord's mansion and saw the giant palm print pressed into the earth, they were stunned. The cultivation required for such destruction was unfathomable. The area was completely leveled. Worse, the city lord's mansion had been reduced to ashes. Haldor's face remained dark. Discussions surrounding the Valar and Korith families continued. Though the city's state was due to those 2 families, no one dared insult them, neither could be offended. But everyone knew one thing. The Valar family was about to rise. Many had seen the 5 Zareth Immortal sect elders fly over, and coupled with the city lord's respectful attitude, their identities were clear. In contrast, the Korith family. Shomir had vanished, his body never found. When the Koriths returned to their residence, everyone was dumbfounded. Roderick cursed viciously. Half the mansion was already destroyed. The remaining half still burned fiercely. The Korith family is gone, and Torin is like this now. Seraphine felt the sky falling and collapsed. What are you thinking about? Hurry up and put out the fire! Roderick roared at the direct descendants and servants behind him. Everyone knew the Korith family had collapsed inside the Valar mansion. The banquet began, a table laden with a sumptuous feast. They had brought out all the remaining good stock from the storeroom. Even for Thalric's birthday they had never prepared such a lavish spread. The 5 elders, Boren, Aldrich, Liriel, Sorrel, and Darius, sat with Kalen, Ilara, and Branner. Aldrich and the others knew Ilara was Kalen's wife. Several sighed with regret over the whole affair. Forced to become a live-in son-in-law and marry an ugly wife, yet now that he had risen, he remained devoted, cherishing their past. They all sighed at this. During the meal, Branner handed Kalen a storage bag containing a coiled dragon spear and a magical longsword, both badly damaged. Darius had ordered them retrieved from the ruins upon their return. Kalen sighed, never expecting his 2 Brindor magic weapons to end up like this. But recalling what Cedric had said, he did not seem in a bad mood at all. Since they were all broken artifacts anyway, he would deal with them later and save them for the future. The arena burned behind them, flames consuming the sand where Kalen had left his arm. He asked after it once, puzzled it was his own, after all, broken or not. But Branner only shook his head. Destroyed, most likely, in the chaos. Kalen nodded and let it go. Flesh and blood, not artifact. Its loss was ordinary in a world where brothers turned on brothers for profit. That he minded at all marked him rare. At the banquet, Boren smiled across the table. We leave for the Zareth Immortal sect tomorrow. Any problem? None. The inner disciple selection waited in 3 days. 2 days' travel would see them there with time to spare. The Valars had known he might leave, but not so soon. Branner fell silent. Ilara said nothing, her face drawn. The family had given their 2 finest rooms to Sorrel and Liriel. The 3 elders, Boren, Aldrich, Darius, took ordinary guest quarters, and the whole household burned with guilt. The elders themselves did not care. That night, in a secluded courtyard, The servants withdrew without being asked. Kaelin and Ilara remained. 2 months had carved lines into her. Her eyes were bloodshot, her frame haggard. Torin's doing, Kaelin knew. He reached for words and found none. "Ilara, I'm sorry you've endured this." She shook her head. "We should apologize. If not for my family, you wouldn't have returned, wouldn't have risked." Her voice low and lovely cracked. She swallowed, held the tears back. He did not know she had spent evenings gazing east toward the sect, silent, refusing to burden him. She had once believed she would grow old alone or marry without choice. Her face, she thought, barred her from a prominent match. Fate had given her Kaelin instead. They talked until dawn. He should have been healing, he refused. Darius, watching from the shadows of his own debt, let the night unfold. Elsewhere in the mansion, a figure slipped toward Boren's door. Seraphina paused, hand raised. "Little girl, come in." She started, scratched her head, entered. Boren smiled. "So late? What troubles you?" She knelt. "Senior, please accept me as your disciple, or at least into the sect." Boren laughed, surprised. "Why me? I'll study alchemy. Serve you respectfully." "You know alchemy." She nodded vigorously. "Iron Peak has a first-grade alchemist who looks down on everyone as he walks." She blinked, realizing Sorrel carried the same air. Benen's smile warmed. "Joining the sect won't be easy. Please, my parents will agree if you accept." Darius stirred in the doorway, thoughtful. "How about this? Go get their consent. If they agree, return with me. You won't be my direct disciple, not yet. You'll enter as a medicine apprentice. Prove yourself and the path opens. What do you say?" The role of a medicine boy resembled an apprenticeship, yet differed in its breadth. Once an alchemist reached a certain stature, aspirants flocked to serve him, trading labor for proximity to his craft. Unlike formal apprentices, medicine boys undertook every manner of chore closer to pages than students. Still, to enter the inner sect of the Zerith Immortal Sect as medicine boy to Boren, head of Dawn Phalis Jorvin, was a distinction that would inspire envy in countless cultivators. Seraphina did not know what the title entailed, but she nodded eagerly. I'm willing. I'll go tell my father right now." She bolted from the room, grinning, but halted a dozen meters out, as if struck by a sudden thought. She turned, bowed deeply toward Boren inside, then fled again. The door stood open. Boren smiled wryly and waved it shut with a casual gesture. Aldrich and Darius, waiting outside, had witnessed the entire scene. The two elders exchanged looks, their expressions unreadable. That night, Seraphina told Garrick. Darius was stunned. He knew his daughter was bold, but not this bold. She had marched straight to a Zareth Immortal Sect elder and secured a place, not as a disciple, but as a medicine boy. Was entry truly so simple? There was no time for lectures. He seized her and went directly to Branno's residence, laying the matter before the patriarch that same evening. Branno was equally taken aback. Darius had heard of medicine boys, and though he did not know Boren's exact grade, the man's bearing and the quality of the pills he had given Kaelin marked him as at least a fourth-rank alchemist. To serve such a master was the dream of every aspiring alchemist. "All right, Seraphina, you may go." The white-haired patriarch clapped his hands, cheering with rare, unrestrained delight. "Very good." The girl leapt up, radiant. Garrick smiled wryly. He hated to see his daughter leave, yet the Zareth Immortal Sect was a tremendous opportunity. A medicine boy destined for elderhood, perhaps this was her fate. Before dawn the next day, Kaelin and Ilara departed the courtyard. They had spoken through the night, voicing every longing, though their marriage remained unconsummated. The one-armed man and his wife arrived at the Vala main hall to find Boren, Aldrich, and the 4 other elders already assembled. Today they would return to the sect. Branna, Garrick, and a cluster of clan elders stood ready. Seraphina lingered at her father's side, her face a tangle of reluctance and excitement. Kaelin found the expression strange. She looked as though she, too, were leaving. By all rights, she should have been at his side, pestering him. There was no time to puzzle it out. He clasped his hands in a bow to Boren and the elders. Ilara followed with a slight inclination. The elders nodded. Boren smiled. "Then let us go." They left Draconis Mansion without breakfast. "Take care of yourself at the Zereth Immortal Sect." Tears spilled down Ilara's cheeks. The onlookers watched the young couple, each lost in private thought. Garrick sighed, glancing at his eldest daughter and Kaelin, then turned to his younger. "You must take care as well. Don't cause trouble. If anything happens, contact your brother-in-law. Understand?" She nodded obediently. I understand, Father. I'll contact him if I need anything. The words rippled through the gathering. Every Valar present, save Branna, turned sharply toward her. Even Sorrel and Lirael stared. Kaelin and Alara, mid-farewell, froze. Kaelin's hand, clasped in his wife's, trembled. His gaze snapped to Garrick and Seraphina, shock and question warring in his eyes. The girl ducked her head, shy. Garrick answered for her. Kaelin Boren has taken Seraphina as his medicine boy. She goes to the Zareth immortal sect as well. When you arrive, look after your little sister. Kaelin's thoughts whirred. She's going too. Brother-in-law, Seraphina beamed, darting to his side. You'll have to take good care of me. Darius said nothing. The news too sudden to process. He looked to Boren, questioning. The elder stroked his beard, nodding slightly. That is correct. I have accepted Seraphina as my medicine apprentice. He was pleased by Kaelin's stunned expression. No thanks necessary. If I take your sister-in-law, you'll have little choice but to join Dawnfaelis Jorvin obediently. Kaelin stood frozen. His first unfiltered thought, the old scoundrel had ruined his life. The farewell turned sour. Lirael produced a wooden boat from his storage bag, a magical artifact both swift and convenient. It became a streak of light shooting eastward, dwindling until it vanished. The Valar family watched, deeply saddened. This Kaelin is a good kid, Branna said with satisfaction as he soared back to his courtyard. Yes, he is. However, Seraphina went along too. I hope she doesn't cause trouble at the Zareth immortal sect. The elders fell silent. They, along with Garrick, shared the same opinion. Kaelin was loyal and righteous. Though the Iron Peak City incident had been caused by him, he was not strictly family, only a son-in-law. It would have been normal for him to choose survival and not return. Yet he had come back. Elara stared blankly eastward, her thoughts unreadable. The boat tore through the void faster than Tengara realm experts could fly. Aboard, the elders, Lirael, Aldrich, and the others, gazed into the distance or meditated cross-legged, faint smiles on their faces. Sorrel's was the most obvious. Kaelin sat with eyes closed, recovering. After boarding, Boren and Sorrel had given him many pills. The most restless person was Seraphina. Senior Boren, since you won't let me call you master, what should I address you as? Is the Zareth immortal sect big? Will I get lost? Senior Boren, how is the food? Senior Boren, why are you ignoring me? She pestered him without pause. At first she had been reserved, but after half a day she could not contain herself. Kaelin was still healing, and she did not want to disturb her brother-in-law's recovery. There would be plenty of time together at the sect, so she fixated on Boren. At first he answered willingly, but his face gradually darkened. After another 2 hours he snapped, ordering her to be quiet and threatening to send her back to Iron Peak City. Aldrich and the others nearly burst out laughing. The girl had not repeated a single word in several hours. Sorrel nodded slightly, noticing that Seraphina did not turn up her nose at him, but looked at him with great admiration. The threat proved effective. She fell obediently silent. Throughout the entire day, Kaelin was awake for less than 15 minutes. The rest he spent meditating. His injuries healed at an astonishing pace. Even the Zareth elders exchanged bewildered glances, unable to fathom where he had acquired such monstrous recovery. A normal cultivator with such serious wounds would need months of recuperation, yet he had recovered more than half his health in just over a day. A day passed quietly. At the Zareth immortal sect's outer sect, the arena, the Velora Wilden Pavilion, and Aurelia Pavilion were packed. Only one day remained until the inner disciple selection. All participating outer disciples went to the Wilden Pavilion to register, to the arena for combat practice, and to Aurelia Pavilion for artifacts and elixirs. The annual selection was a major event. In previous years, the most promising talents signed up. Though only a one-word difference separated outer from inner disciples, the gap was enormous. Menial disciples could advance to outer disciples through other opportunities. But for outer disciples to become inner disciples, the selection was the only path. Exceptions existed, but were exceedingly slim. Before the Zyphor Isara Zoroth, a deacon shouted, "Today is the last day to register. After today there will be no more opportunities." Beside him, 4 other deacons recorded information. It was common for cultivators to enter seclusion for months, and in the past some had missed the assessment because of it, though those cases were extremely rare. Moreover, disciples capable of such seclusion were all monstrous geniuses. A long, densely packed line stood before the deacons. One aloof, beautiful woman attracted many male disciples. She was expressionless, her demeanor cold, her features breathtaking. This was Isolde. She would also participate. Besides her, this year's outer disciples included Mirabel and a host of other prodigies. Caelan had disappeared without a trace. Apart from Caldor, no one knew where he went, and Caldor had revealed nothing. Varric did not come. Among the crowd was a woman with a stunning figure. Though incredibly beautiful, no one dared to peek at her. She was a powerful Tengara realm expert, Falora, whom Caelan had met once in the library. There was even another man Caelan had seen on the 3rd floor. With so many powerful figures around, no one knew how many monstrous geniuses the outer sect truly possessed until this day arrived. Among them, only a few dozen had reached the Seraphis realm. Only 300 people were selected as inner disciples each year. Time passed slowly. The queue gradually decreased, but even after dusk, Caelan was still nowhere to be seen. The inner disciple selection dawned grey and cold. Caelan had missed the registration window entirely. During the waiting period, Isolde had gone to his cave herself and found only emptiness. The competition structure was brutal in its simplicity. Single elimination within a secret realm beyond the sect's boundaries. 7 days, every disciple entered with a teleportation token. Crushing it meant instant expulsion. Victory points came from tokens. Force an opponent to break theirs, or take and break it yourself, and you claimed their points. Killing before crushing yielded the same result. Each token represented a single point, so every win guaranteed at least one. Inside the realm, sect law held no sway. Life and death were irrelevant. Only the final tally mattered. The top 300 would become inner disciples. The top 10 earned access to the Marrow-Deep Cleansora poolshade, where the waters cleansed marrow, purged impurities and remade the body, an advantage that had lifted Tauren into the Tengara realm. The top 3 bathed closer to the spring, receiving a baptism several times more potent. First place received a grade Aelthoria Miralon Pilvora, personally compounded by boron. Its materials were astronomically precious, and a single dose could vault a cultivator below Tengara forward without side effect. No hidden techniques or concealed artifacts functioned within. Entry points were randomized, meaning even a formidable outer disciple could materialize in the midst of a waiting pack and be erased before drawing breath. Over 5,000 outer disciples massed before the outer sect hall. A sea of blue robes. Some faces were solemn, some eager, some grim. Most clustered in groups, dozens strong veterans of previous years who knew the arithmetic. 300 spots, random dispersal, prearranged rendezvous. Cooperation multiplied survival. New disciples almost never made it. Isolde stood apart. Pride and a cold selectivity kept her circle empty. Mirabel stood alone as well, both too new to have woven the necessary webs. Mirabel hesitated, then approached. Isolde. Temporary alliance once we're inside. You know the rules. His cultivation had reached the 9th level of Starfall transformation since joining, respectable, but meaningless against the dozens of Tengara realm cultivators in the field. She glanced at him calm as still water. You're too weak. Not worthy. Mirabel's face flushed. He snorted and turned away. Falora moved through the crowd with 7 or 8 female cultivators at her flank, each radiating quiet lethality. She stopped before Isolde, eyes assessing, failing to plumb the full depth of the younger woman's cultivation. Junior sister. Impressive. Care to join us? Isolde turned. Falora's level was higher, unfathomable. She glanced at the companions, hesitated, then nodded. She had hoped to recruit Caelan. He was not here. Falora was curvaceous and direct, where Isolde was ice and silence. Together they drew male gazes like lodestones, brief glances only, because staring too long at killers was unwise. Tens of thousands of outer and miscellaneous disciples ringed the perimeter. A vast audience for the sect's annual spectacle. Not only would the Irden sect leader Caldric preside, but inner sect leader Lorcan and a retinue of inner elders. The 3 hovered mid-air, expressions strained, burdened. They spoke in voice transmission. Where is that boy Caelan? Lorcan asked. I just raised Sorrel, Caldric replied. They're en route, another hour. Lorcan declared the competition over. Caldric asked what they should do, suggesting they stall. Behind them, a cluster of elders traded messages. Cedric from the weapon crafting lineage, Gwyneth and Phoenix from the formation lineage, a mix of outer and inner sect elders. Everyone who recognized Kalen was discussing his absence. The inner disciples especially had already planned how to claim him once he joined. Whether he made the top 100 had not crossed their minds. Even if he failed, they had ways to pull him in. The selection was merely a formality to keep outside spies from learning he possessed the Enlightenment seed. Naturally, they would not tell him any of this, but the prerequisite was participation. Special treatment was impossible if he did not show up. It is Chenvar Shirith, 7 to 9 in the morning. Why has it not started? Usually it begins at 5. Why the delay this year? Strange, this has never happened. Murmurs rose. The disciples buzzed in bafflement. Lorcan and Caldric exchanged a glance and shook their heads helplessly. Quiet. Caldric's voice rang out, and the 100,000 disciples fell silent, gazes locking onto him suspended in the air. Darius surveyed the crowd. Today is the inner sect disciple selection. For outer disciples, this is the only path into the Zereth immortal sect's core. You all know this. The process is ruthless, only 100 chosen each year. Inside the secret realm, beyond your battles, terrifying monsters lurk. Every year many perish. I grieve, but why should cultivators fear death? Darius paused. Caldric spoke passionately for half an hour while suspended mid-air. At first the outer and menial disciples listened raptly, excitement high. Gradually their expressions turned strange. His later words were things they already knew, but he had not been told and seemed entirely useless. So, everyone, do your best. Darius sighed, face flushed, stepped back, and winked at Lorcan, signaling his turn. Lorcan sighed and stepped forward. I am Lorcan, inner sect leader. Many of you joined the Zereth immortal sect, aiming to enter the inner sect. He paused. Lorcan rarely appeared in the outer sect, surfacing only for the annual selection. At first sight, the disciples were thrilled. Soon they realized his later remarks, like Caldric's, were nonsense, stalling. In previous years, the two leaders kept it brief, combined speaking time under a quarter hour. This time they were buying time for someone. Everyone, be careful in the secret realm, there are. A streak of light tore toward them from dozens of miles away. Lorcan breathed a sigh of relief. The secret realm opens in half an hour. Prepare yourselves. His expression shifted instantly and he vanished. Silence fell. The participants were bewildered. The spectators stunned. Was it really that casual? The elders exchanged confused glances. Not long after, a streak of light halted mid-air. A wooden boat-shaped artifact hovered in the void. A figure landed on it. A handsome young man in white robes, left sleeve empty. Kalen. Someone recognized him. Darius hit the ground, looked around and exhaled. On the return journey they had plenty of time, but the misty Immortal Palace's agents blocked their path and caused trouble. The moment the longevity and loyalty lamp shattered, it signaled the other party's death, Oramis Core included. With the palace's reach, their investigation led to Iron Peak City within a day. They dispatched several Yuan Hulis realm experts eastward. The two sides met en route. Knowing Boron was responsible, the palace experts dared not act, but the delay cost precious time. That was why he returned only now. Kalen's arrival drew every eye again. Darius clasped hands respectfully to the elders aloft. Caldric, Lorcan, and the others exhaled secretly. The boy had finally come. Yet they were shocked. How had he lost an arm? His aura screamed serious injury. It is Kalen. How does he have only one arm? Kalen's reputation in the outer sect preceded him. This year's top selection performer, he had felled Cedric, a 9th-level Starfall transformation disciple, before even stepping through the sect gates. Then in the arena he defeated Steward Everhart, a 2nd-level Seraphis transcending cultivator, transforming his Starfall mid-battle to overcome a Tengara expert. Fame was inevitable. How does he have only one arm? Someone asked. One-armed, another gasped. The murmurs swelled, every eye fixed on the empty sleeve, yet no one questioned how he had descended from the wooden boat suspended in mid-air. By the time the thought occurred to anyone, the vessel had simply vanished. The inner sect selection begins, Caldric announced. Darius stepped forward, tapped his storage bag, and thousands of jade tokens scattered into the waiting hands of the participating disciples. Kalen caught one. Before he could grasp the rules, a violent force seized him. The world inverted. Consciousness fled. When his eyes opened, the forest pressed close around him, dense, ancient, its spiritual energy nearly 3 times richer than the sect's. A secret realm, a carved pocket world, either crafted by powerful beings or born of nature, connected to the outside only by hidden passageways. This woodland was one such place. Find someone. Learn the rules, he murmured, and flashed westward toward a flickering aura he had sensed. Outside, more than 5,000 outer sect disciples simply disappeared from the plaza. The jade tokens they clutched were keys. The 100,000 disciples left behind stared at empty air, bewildered, only a handful understanding what had transpired. Thousands of light screens bloomed overhead, each tracking a participant's every move, every battle, linked to the tablets in their possession. When a disciple lost their qualification, their screen would wink out. Caldric, Lorcan, and the other elders watched from the platform. Streaks of light descended beside Lorcan and Sorrel, Boran, Aldrich, Darius, Lirael, and a young woman trailing Boran. Boran's face was thunderous. The others wore faint smiles. "Stand silent beside me, or I'll send you back," Boran told Seraphina. She nodded, her expression promising she would not speak though the heavens fell. Lorcan waved a hand, raising a soundproof barrier around them. "What happened? Why so late?" Caldric asked. They should have returned days ago. Each held a jade slip capable of transmitting voice across 10,000 miles, yet none had used them. In the end, Caldric had contacted Sorrel directly. The reply had been arrogant, terse. "Nothing. I killed an outer elder of the misty immortal palace. On the return, a few Yuanhulis realm elders from the palace intercepted me. Delayed me a bit," Aldrich said. Lorcan and Caldric exchanged a grim look. The misty immortal palace was not a power to provoke lightly. "I killed him," Boran said. The two elders exhaled, though their expressions remained dark. Sorrel stepped forward and laid out the full sequence. "So that's how it stands." Lorcan's face iced over. A cold glint sharpened Caldric's eyes. "The palace has overreached. An elder of Vera went out merely to crush a minor family and threaten our disciples. They earned their deaths. Boran's strike had checked the palace and drawn blood, but knowing the palace, they would not swallow the insult." "Leave the rest for later," Caldric said, his mouth twisting. "Kalen is barely standing, he's missing an arm. If he enters the assessment." At their cultivation, a glance sufficed. Mid-stage 9th level Starfall transformation. Normally, with his record of challenging above his weight, inner sect entry was assured. Even a loss, if not humiliating, could be managed. But the damage was too severe. Lorcan chuckled. "Fairer to the other disciples, isn't it? That he's down an arm." Sorrel wore his arrogance like a second skin, and Lirael inclined his head in silent agreement. The onlookers, Boran, Aldrich, Darius among them, exchanged uneasy glances. None had witnessed the duel between Kalen and Turin, and the true measure of Kalen's strength remained a mystery. Sorrel chuckled. The boy unleashed everything he had earlier, 4th level of the Seraphis realm. Darius spoke with a calm that felt anything but. "A Starfall transformation, 9th level cultivator wielding Seraphis Transcendence 4th level combat power." The words hung in the air, absurd and undeniable. Genius, monster, prodigy. The labels collided, leaving the crowd speechless. When Lorcan lifted the sound barriers, the surrounding elders frowned at the sudden conference. Shirith, Gwyneth, Cedric, and the others wore the tight-lipped expressions of people who had already guessed the truth. Seraphina stood quietly beside Boran, her gaze fixed on the floating light screen, searching for Kalen's figure. Inside the secret realm, Kalen moved through the dense forest. The missing arm did not slow him. The shifting stars technique, a movement art that blended shadow stepping with explosive leg strength, propelled him several times faster than peers of his level. In less than a quarter hour he had covered miles. Ahead, a young man in outer disciple blue hurried through the undergrowth, delicate features tight with concentration. He sensed the approaching aura and froze. "Who goes there?" He spun, frown deepening as a white-robed figure materialized 20 meters away, right sleeve empty and fluttering. "Kalen." The disciple's face drained. "You, Kalen Erindor?" That was his name, though Kalen didn't know it yet. Staggered back. His cultivation sat at mid-stage Starfall transformation, 9th level, same as Kalen's, but the reputation preceding the one-armed cultivator had grown heavier than any technique. In the outer sect, Kalen's name now outweighed even the older generations. "You recognize me?" Kalen asked, curiosity genuine. He held no hostility. He had been dropped into the selection blind, unaware of the rules, unaware that his name had become a summons. Since defeating Stuart Everhart, his days had dissolved into library nights and cave mornings, a frantic return to Iron Peak, and almost no contact beyond Caldor. What do you want? Erindor retreated another step, nearly tripping. He forced his chin up. I'm Erindor. I'm allied with Dernick and senior brother Silvar. You'd better not try anything reckless. The names were shields. Silvar and Dernick, both half-step Tangara, commanded respect in the outer sect. Their alliance numbered over 30 disciples. Erindor 9th level Starfall transformation was en route to the rendezvous. Silvar, Dernick, Kaelin murmured, the names surfacing from memory, his eyes sharpened. Good people. Both of them. He raised an eyebrow at Erindor. You know them? Of course, I'm heading to meet them now. Meet them. A faint smile curved Kaelin's mouth. Erindor shuddered. Let's go. Take me with you. It's been a long time since I've seen those two old friends. Old friends, Erindor gaped. Kaelin, an Eldamir Vera disciple, a menace by all accounts, wanted to walk into the heart of a 30-man alliance. He opened his mouth to refuse. You don't want to? Kaelin's expression darkened, the smile vanishing like breath in winter. The shift was instantaneous, violent. Erindor swallowed hard and nodded. This one would kill me before the real enemy even moved. Kaelin's smile returned, easy as sunlight. The secret realm stretched thousands of miles, forests, caves, deserts, lakes, mapped by generations of outer disciples. Obvious gathering points were known, now from different directions. Silvar and Dernick converged on the same location, dozens of disciples trailing behind them. In the realm, everyone was a competitor. Safety lay in numbers, isolation meant elimination. They shared the same calculation. Before long, Silvar and Dernick arrived at the foot of a massive banyan tree. You've arrived? How was the journey? Any danger? Silvar asked. Dernick shook his head. Smooth sailing. What about the others? No idea. Some may have been teleported farther out, which would slow them down. The rest were probably eliminated. Both fell silent. The first 2 days inside the secret realm were when eliminations happened fastest. Among the disciples taking the assessment, some lay in wait, planning to reveal themselves only on the final day. Others went all out from the start, hunting victory points before hiding away. Selecting inner disciples was no longer just a test of individual strength, it had become a test of the law of the jungle. Under the enormous banyan tree, more than 10 outer disciples arrived one after another. Silvar and Dernick relaxed slightly. Over a dozen were already gathered. Then 2 more figures rushed toward them. It's Erindor. Someone recognized him immediately. A disciple called out, asking who was behind him. All eyes turned. Upon seeing the second figure, expressions shifted, especially Silvar and Dernick, whose faces turned as black as soot. A murmur ran through the crowd. One disciple cried out in alarm, asking what was wrong with him. Another whispered confirmation. A third muttered that it was that jinxed Kaelin. Someone else questioned how Erindor could be with him. The dozen or so outer disciples went on high alert, each preparing for battle, some even drawing magical artifacts. Silvar and Dernick looked ashen. Why did this jinx have to show up? In the blink of an eye, the pair reached the banyan tree. Seeing the tense faces, Kaelin almost laughed, then turned his gaze to Silvar and Dernick. Haven't seen you in a long time. His words were calm, almost like an old friend's greeting. Yes. Long time no see. They forced themselves to remain calm, foreheads beaded with cold sweat, backs icy. Others might not know how dangerous this evil star was, but these two had experienced it firsthand. They were certain he would dare kill them inside the secret realm. The others breathed a sigh of relief. Kaelin clearly knew Silvar and Dernick. Erindor exhaled as well. Darius had been terrified when Kaelin ordered him to lead the way, but hadn't dared disobey. I ran into Kaelin on the road, Erindor explained. Darius said he knows senior brothers Silvar and Dernick and wanted to come along. The surrounding disciples suddenly recalled the earlier greeting and relaxed. I never imagined senior brothers knew Kaelin, one exclaimed. Even if you hadn't seen his strength, you'd heard of it. Now that he was here, didn't that mean he wanted to join their team? That would greatly boost their chances of entering the inner sect. At first I was worried, a disciple admitted, with this many of us and no Transcendence Realm cultivator to hold the fort, surviving 7 days seemed impossible. But then Kaelin actually showed up. As expected of the senior brothers, another agreed. They must have contacted him long ago as a surprise. The disciples all spoke up, exchanging pleasantries and bowing to Kaelin. Darius smiled. He had learned some of the inner sect selection rules while traveling with Irindor. Silvar and Dernick stayed silent, faces extremely gloomy. Both were prepared to crush their jade tablets and teleport away if he turned on them. Where's Cedric? Why didn't he come? Kaelin had beaten Cedric half to death on impulse, then deeply regretted it. At the mention of the name, Dernick and Silvar's expressions darkened further. They had been tricked by Cedric into provoking Kaelin. Not only had they been severely injured, they'd lost their storage bags and contribution points, but they dared not refuse to answer. Silvar forced a smile. Cedric hasn't recovered yet. He only recently regained the ability to walk normally. As they spoke, both stared at Kaelin with cautious eyes, watching for any reaction. Still not recovered. Kaelin sighed, realizing he had been too ruthless. I just heard the general rules for the first round. Could you explain them again? Darius looked at the two, voice calm. Silvar and Dernick both swallowed hard. Darius patiently laid out the details. Irindor and the other outer disciples didn't rush or show impatience. They all believed Kaelin was in cahoots with the pair. Excitement rippled through the group. A moment later, the top 300 scorers joined the inner sect. The top 10 earn a chance at the Maradeep Cleansora pool shade. The top 3 will be placed near the pool spring, and the first place winner receives an additional 5th grade pill, the tribulation-breaking Pilvora. That's the gist. Everyone's an enemy, though some plan to hide in the chaos until the very end. Silvar and Dernick were exceptionally cooperative. They not only explained the first assessment's rules, but shared everything they knew about the inner sect selection. Kaelin nodded in satisfaction, then lowered his head in thought, falling silent. The Maradeep Cleansora pool shade. When he defeated that misty immortal palace outer disciple in Iron Peak City, the man had said Torin entered the misty immortal palace's Maradeep Cleansora pool shade. That proved the pool wasn't unique to one location. When Torin met him this time, his cultivation had actually reached the Tengara realm, surely connected to the pool. Therefore Kaelin was determined to break into the top 10.